2023 wasn't a good year for the Carolina Panthers, but I'm trying to make 2024 a better one for myself. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including keto options, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Skip that overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door, and they're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. Head to factormeals.com/C350 and use the promo code C350 to get 50% off. That's code C350 at factormeals.com/C350 to get 50% off.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
The C3 Panthers Podcast. Welcome. Kicking off the 2022 season. I always start our seasons with the week after, the Tuesday after the Super Bowl, because that is the final capstone. That is the bookend to last season, and a big announcement for you guys. This is kicking off the 10th season for the C3 Panthers Podcast. Right? 2013, 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, man. How about that? The longest running Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. Hop in the car. We're heading to Bank of America, and we got some bitching and some complaining to do. We got some celebrating to do, I guess. Maybe we have some optimism. Maybe we don't. Tonight's show, QB or not to QB, that is the question, and I will answer that question with my co-host, Cody Lashney. Welcome back.
Tony Dunn, football is officially over. We will not watch more professional football until sometime around late summer of this year. But one of the things that we differ in from the NFL season is we have no off season. Come rain, sleet, or snow, financial and economic collapse.
Pandemic or not,
volcanoes erupting or not, no matter what happens, your boys congregate right here on a Tuesday night and hang out with the best Panther fans in all of YouTube. Tony Dunn, you already know them and love them. We got our man Drew, ATX19, Brad Holt, The Real Zero Chill, Hector Macho Camacho, Joey the Blind Panther, Matt Knows Nothing, Sideshow Rob, Tim Estes, Underground West, and Zach Simmons 13. Tony Dunn, ain't nothing to it but to do it, my brother. Let's roll.
Good New Year to you, sir, CK. I call it the C3 New Year. Welcome back.
Oh, yeah. Good to be here. Good to be here celebrating what is a new season of the C3 Panthers podcast. This is really when you're starting to see the ramp up, I think, of the draft discussion. The free agency is going to be hitting much sooner than people realize. That is just around the corner. Do we keep them? Do we not? I think these are all discussions we're going to be having over the next few weeks. But I will say this much, the consistency of being here with you boys, chalking up what we have, the things we do have to discuss with the Carolina Panthers, and of course, talking about what we see out of the league as well. We are a Panthers podcast, but when the Panthers aren't really doing anything, we also have to talk about what we're seeing in the league. And I think we need to have a conversation about Matthew Stafford and how we fucking missed that boat.
Yeah,
Oh,
we do have to look in the context. We swim amongst the NFL, right?
Yep.
That is
oh
our
yeah.
C. The number is 252-228-5098. That is 252-228-5098. Cody, lastly, I was going to tell you this is I was telling CK before we got rocking and rolling. I was trying to delete some of the calls out of the voicemail. And when I say some, I just deleted from back to October, right? November till now. We've had 400 calls since November.
Wow.
That's pretty
You know,
wild, man.
that is wild. But you know what? Look at this comment right here. Joey the Blind Panther says the C3 Panthers podcast has been the only good thing that has been consistent with the Carolina Panthers in quite some times. We're here for Panther fans, by Panther fans, because we are a bunch of Panther fans. And to add on to what CK was saying, I think this Super Bowl has opened up a lot of room for a lot of good discussions, not only about Matthew Stafford, but it shows you that there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I think that we might need to look at this Super Bowl and kind of think about, are the Panthers taking the correct way to building their team of the future and some of the methods in doing so. I mean, the Bengals, they didn't have a heavily invested offensive line, as everyone can tell. And yet they made it to a Super Bowl because they took the quarterback and the wide receiver that they felt most comfortable with. And that's an entirely different path than the Los Angeles Rams took, who went heavy in free agency and gave up all their draft picks. So it really lends towards a good discussion about how the Carolina Panthers should attack this offseason.
Your thoughts on the Super Bowl, guys?
Oh, man.
Good game. Good game.
I mean,
Yeah.
Sad to see so much of the NFL dictated by penalties or even blown calls. Like at the same time,
yeah.
Is that they let them play all the way through the game, and then the laundry starts coming out at the end. Really, if you are a Bengals fan at that point, you're saying the fix is in. The fix is in. But at the same time, that one touchdown, Jalen Ramsey is getting unfairly roasted, I think, by saying like he gave up more yards than ever. Like one of those was 70-something yards on one pass where he got ripped his head ripped off.
Right.
And I was rooting against the Rams. I was rooting for the Bengals. So it was like, I'm like, let them play. But at the same time, it does stink. Man, the Bengals defense couldn't stop at anything at the end. And unfairly, they probably had to stop too much at the same time. So your thoughts on the game?
I'll let you go, Cody.
Well, I mean, listen, I feel like the Bengals offensive line did a good job early in the football game at protecting Joe Burrow. But then as time went on, you see players like Aaron Donald and Von Miller prove to you why they get paid the money that they do. They took over the football game and sacked Joe Burrow more than any other quarterback has ever been sacked in a Super Bowl. And I feel like if you would have told us that before the Super Bowl, we all would have been like, yeah, sounds about right. That's kind of what we figured would happen, given how bad that offensive line was. But at the end of the day, they just, Joe Burrow had to get the ball out of his hands very quick. And that allowed, and us Panthers know this all too well. This is what all teams do against us. They rush the passer well. They use those stunts. They're very aggressive. They're well timed with blitzes, and it forces the quarterback to get the ball out of his hand very fast, which then causes defensive backs to be able to bite down on things. Also very similar to the Panthers, I felt like the Bengals were at their best when they were running the football behind Joe Mixon and just pounding the rock. And then at some point, they kind of got away from that. But overall, defense wins championships. And that's something that we've all said for a long time now. And that's what many Panther fans have wanted the Panthers to do. And that's kind of Matt Rule's mindset as well, that we're going to be a defensive football team who is, led by our defense. And then they're going to ask our offense to do just enough, primarily run the football, and whenever they can, take some shots. I just think the better, more talented football team won the day. And that's really as simple as that.
Yep. I don't disagree. I think, as you mentioned, I mean, I think the offensive line has been a question mark all year for them. We talked about it. And listen, I mean, it's talent can take you a pretty far distance. And I think we see that with the Bengals. But when you don't have the pieces in place that are going to be the backbone of your team, that are going to be the offensive line, the defense, all of those things, as Cody mentioned, you're going to have a hard time, when you're facing a team like that. Now the question mark, and you see, there's going to be a debate, right? And I think there's already a debate happening right now with the whether or not Matt Stafford is a Hall of Fame type quarterback.
Yeah.
His resume right now, he is not, right? Like, he's got the Super Bowl. I think that would help his chances. But the problem is like, when you compare him, when you see exactly what he's been able to do with talent around him, everybody wants to sit there and like, I've mentioned it time and time again with Patrick Mahomes. Everybody was oohing and ahhing over his no-look passes, right? Matthew Stafford has been doing that his entire career, and nobody wants to say anything because he was on the Detroit Lions. Now, guess what? He wins a Super Bowl throwing one of the sickest passes that you'll ever see in a Super Bowl. Probably will go down as one of the best passes that I've ever seen from a quarterback, especially when you look at it in slow motion from the angle they've been pushing out there like they have, right? You look at all those things, Matthew Stafford is not a bad quarterback. He was given a poor opportunity, and he's done the most with what he's been able to do since he's been in the Rams. I think he has a lot more to do in order to be able to be considered a Hall of Fame type quarterback. But man, he is making an argument at this point in time, and let the argument commence, because I think it's worthy of a discussion.
By the way, this was the no look pass that CK is talking about. Look at Matthew Stafford's eyes the whole time. Keeps his head one direction, and then just whoosh, right the other way, right into the hands of Cooper Kupp. Dude, if you're a football fan and you don't see plays like that and go, holy shit, dude, that's why you watch football, man. The timing that Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp are on with one another. I mean, I've said this throughout the course of the year, with Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, having a quarterback receiver combo where they are on the same page, it makes you so incredibly dangerous from any point on the football field. And that's why the Rams went all in on all that talent and Matthew Stafford, because they knew that they could put a good football team around him to allow him to make those kinds of banana plays that we just saw. Matthew Stafford wouldn't have ever done that on the Panthers. He might have made some of those passes, but we all know that Matthew Stafford would not have had the same level of success here in Carolina that he did with the Rams. And that's why he made the best decision that he possibly could have made for his career.
I think one thing that we see is like, if we're having a discussion about whether Matt Stafford should be a Hall of Famer or not, which I don't even think it's close at this point that he should be considered Hall of Fame. I think he should be considered really just a good football player that's been on a bad team or, under difficult circumstances.
Yep.
But it shows you so much how much just winning changes the narrative.
Well, circumstances.
Is that like if the Rams lose this game right here, you're talking about how Stafford didn't get it done, how he's part of the problem.
Yeah, halfway through the first half, you had people already commenting on Twitter about Matt Stafford, the biggest choke artist on the planet, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, he led the league in interceptions this year. So I mean, this shows you what winning does to a narrative, right?
Right.
Is that the other thing that I think that this game reveals to us, not only did you say there are different ways to skin a cat, Cody, I do think that's important, right? Is to think about like different ways to build a team. But what I think this shows us is how much has to go right for you to actually win.
Yeah.
Because the Rams are the superior team here, right? Like, I mean, they got all of this going on. odds-on favorite. They're odds like they almost lost that damn game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, is that you get the quarterback, you got the defense, you got this, you got everything possible. You even get Odell Beckham halfway through the season, and he like gets it together and is like looking awesome. Like everything has to go right, even to the last moment. Moment. And when I looked at that, I know that the Bengals offensive line, we all knew that was their weakness, right? I mean, and their defense is just pretty good. It's just okay. It's not, it hasn't been shut down. I feel like, but I feel what I also think is that offensive line just got fatigued towards the end.
I mean, how can you not?
I know is that you are going up against the best athletes in the NFL. Aaron Donald, arguably the best player in the NFL. Like at this point, you're just gassed. Like that poor guard, he wasn't good to start with. And they played really well for a long time in that game. And then it's just like, man, I can't go. Like, I can't. One more play, boss, please. No, I am so tired. So things have to go so right. Even when you've already perfectly aligned the team, when you built the team perfectly and you got everything, things have to go well. Now, this begs the question to me, and I saw someone bring this up on Twitter today, is that Joe Burrow is the same age that Cam Newton was when he went to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And I tell you this is at that moment when Cam wins the NFL MVP, had one of the most exciting seasons for a quarterback ever. And I really felt like you were in 2015, even after that Super Bowl, I felt like we saw Cam stepping into into the stratosphere. Like that's where we felt like we were going.
Yeah.
And isn't it wild? Like, you felt like, man, we'll be back here before long.
It's not that simple, is it?
Well, look at where we're at now. So even for the Bengals, and maybe that shows you why their aggressiveness with Matt Stafford goes to show you that their recognition of that. They were just in the Super Bowl 2 years ago or 3. What was it? 2 or 3 years ago?
Something like that. Yeah.
When they lost to the Patriots,
2017.
Yeah, I mean, and so they could be sitting there, man, we got there with Jared Goff. We got there. We were so close. We just didn't put together a good offensive game plan. We got out-coached. And even that, so they that's a lesson I feel like they learned is like, the moment is now. Like, I mean, that sucks for Cincinnati because they might have their great quarterback. They might have all this, but like everything has to go right.
Well, so that kind of it goes back to my argument that I was saying earlier that there's more than one way to skin a cat, and it goes back to this thing where the Panthers think that we are only one quarterback and one season away from being a Super Bowl contender. Now, for us, that's a very flawed logic because us who follow the team, we know that we need more safety help. We know that we need more linebacker help. We know how atrocious this offensive line has been. And then you add the quarterback conversation to that. It's like, yeah, we're not close, right? But then the point that you made, look at the Rams. They were actually in the Super Bowl and had a legitimate reason to believe that their quarterback was holding them back. So that's why it made all the sense in the world for a team that's built that way to go out and get a Matthew Stafford and invest in a quarterback that can take you all the way. This is where I have a problem with a lot of Panther fans, just saying, well, if we just, go and get a quarterback, that'll fix everything. Well, no, that's not necessarily true either. Then on the flip side of that, you have the Cincinnati Bengals. And as we alluded to, the Carolina Panthers are the perfect scenario that the Bengals should be looking at and say, okay, that's what we don't want to do as a football team that made it to the Super Bowl and then just terribly regressed back to the means. But one of the things that the Bengals do have over us is they're currently number 4th in the NFL in cap space at $51 million. So they have money to spend and they have the means to put talent on that football team around Joe Burrow. So, you're going to hear a lot of hot takes from people all throughout this process. Oh, the Panthers have to take a quarterback, or the Panthers have to go offensive line. Well, no, it's kind of both of them. You have to make sure that your team has proper talent evaluators so that they can bring the right talent to the football team and not try and fit a square peg into a round hole just because some other team did it before.
Yeah, I don't want to look at the guy beside me on the roulette table or the craps table and he's playing the hard 10 and made money. And then I go, well, I got good odds then of making money that way when that's a low probability bet. You know what I mean? It's a low probability bet just because somebody else. And look, the Bengals, they caught lightning in a bottle this year.
Sure.
Is that, you know what I mean? They kind of look like better than, we did. We were suspect of them, but they hadn't won a damn playoff game in 30 years. And then they won 3 in a row.
And I mean, and they won impressively, right? It wasn't like they didn't win convincingly, but they won in a
comeback,
knockout, drag out type of a thing. And that was something like it was almost nice to see Joe Burrow be able to fight back from a 17-point deficit against the Chiefs and do the same thing that they did during the season. They did the exact same thing two times this year against the Chiefs. I do think that it's something to look at and be like, that's pretty impressive. But also you talk about exactly what everybody's been mentioning. And it's interesting because most people aren't comparing Joe Burrow to Cam Newton other than his fashion sense. Most people are comparing him to Andrew Luck, not because of but because Andrew Luck had to deal with injury after injury after injury. Even with somewhat of an investment in their offensive line, he still was dealing with these injuries because they couldn't protect him to the effectiveness that he needed to be protected. And he retired early, right? A lot of people are trying to draw that comparison between those two. So you could see a scenario because he did start his career late in comparison to most quarterbacks in the NFL. Like he started, he's 25. You got to keep in mind, this is his second year. When Cam Newton went to the Super Bowl, it was his 4th or 5th year, right? So like he's already starting on a bit of a handicap that he's coming in so late in his life into the NFL. So we're going to see this start to kind of pan out. A lot of people are definitely looking at that offensive line as the biggest issue for them. But I think you're right, Tony, because it's lightning in a bottle. Everybody wants to talk about these guys are going to be back. These guys are going to be back. These guys are going to be back.
Yeah, you never know, man. You're one injury away.
Look at
Look, Cam Newton.
Look at the AFC. Tell me how they're gonna be back consistently.
I think it's possible, but it just all goes down to is can Joe Burrow stay healthy? Like so much of the NFL is superstars just staying healthy too,
right?
And look, people thought Aaron Rodgers was done a few years ago, and then he came back from injury and had a revitalizing moment over the last couple of years. So it's how you respond to those injuries, and that's actually been the issue with Cam Newton. Is that like once these injuries started to set in, he deteriorated as physically is deteriorating.
Yeah.
And, we knew there was some risk there, but it does feel like, look, first of all, that's 7 years ago, 6-7 years ago now, 2015. It just felt like, man, we're going to have more time to try to get this right in the future and look at where we're at. So if we kind of spin that to QB or not to QB, Nick Montero sent me a message. I thought we had a good little brief conversation on Facebook the other day. And he said, look, I know people are going to look at this Joe Burrow and say, man, Joe Burrow is a good example of like, you got to get your quarterback. And it's true. Like, it's almost like you can't win without a quarterback. Right. But
yeah,
you can't also win with a quarterback when you're without him because he's getting murdered. Right. You need both. It's not one thing that fixes anything. So a better quarterback will propel this team to the next level. But I thought you brought up a good point is that finding Joe Burrow isn't easy.
Mm-mm.
No, I mean, look at how many swings and misses there have been on Joe Burrow so far when it comes to all of these other quarterbacks that people have misevaluated as being good, from Jared Goff to Sam Darnold to Josh Rosen.
Carson Wentz.
Yeah, is that if the odds of hitting that 1 in a million type quarterback are so long, and you know that you're going to probably have a better than average quarterback in reality, then it does seem like building that offensive line, building that wall, does put you in a statistically stronger place for winning, like a probability sense.
Right.
It does, but see, then I don't like making decision based off of data and odds. Well, because to me, like what you just said, Tony, that was Matt Rule's take on it, even last year.
Yeah,
These
Fear.
quarterbacks,
Fear.
they're kind of boom and bust. So you are being led by fear rather than your evaluation of the players that you are meant to evaluate. And that's why I've been saying, and I'll continue to say it, every draft class is a brand new, entirely different class, entirely on its own.
Right.
You don't judge it based to another class before it, because if you start to do that, you are going to miss out on very talented football players that could help you win right now. This is why the Carolina Panthers could have had Rashawn Slater, and they could have had Justin Fields. Whether or not you believe him to be a good quarterback or not, it's still a young quarterback that we could have had on a rookie contract. So, with that said, there is no one size fits all.
No,
every team is built different, and you have to do what's best for your football team. There might be similarities with the Rams and the Bengals, but the Panthers are not the Bengals. The Panthers are not the Rams. We're not the Niners. We're the Carolina Panthers. And I think going forward, it's so imperative that, one, Scott Fitterer get the power back in his hands and be able to make decisions on behalf of this football team and not Matt Rule. And then for him to do just that, use his evaluation to build this football team in the proper fashion. We don't have a ton of money to do it or a ton of draft picks to do it. So you're really going to have to get the most out of the little capital that you have going forward right now.
What is that then? Because as you're right, we are the Carolina Panthers, and I think when I say that is, we have to look at from where we're at in our stages of development, right? So I mean, look, the Rams had all of these tools, man. They paid Aaron Donald a bunch of money. Their window, they see it as like now. The Bengals were. It took them 30 years to get Joe Burrow, by the way.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's be fair on that. This wasn't just a 3-year turnaround. This was a 33-year turnaround or whatever, because I mean, they were the first round. They had the first overall pick a few years ago. And it kind of is a good story, like it kind of, I guess, shifts like your attention to like, hey man, the Jags and the Browns, y'all suck. Y'all had this opportunity to do this a lot too. But the Panthers don't have either of those. We don't have a good roster. I don't want to hear this mess about our defense is ready to take us. I don't believe that one bit. Is that I don't think that we know what our defense is going to look like next year, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, is that, are there some exciting pieces? Or actually, I don't even know. Right now, outside of Jeremy Chin, tell me the exciting piece on that defense. You have to say J.C. Horn, but we've only seen him for 4 games.
Well, Brian Burns is a Pro Bowler. And
he's a Pro Bowler, and he wasn't even the best end on our team.
That's what we've all said. And it's like, that's why, shout out to Drew. He's probably still in the chat on the Friday free for all. He's maintained that Brian Burns, if you're gonna be in the market for a quarterback, whether it be Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson or whoever, that Brian Burns is probably pretty likely to be a part of that.
I agree with that.
Considering he's never been more valuable than he is right now.
Has not been injured, kind of entering the peak part of his career, coming off a Pro Bowl season. He's like the only marketable player. All right, so they said Luvu. I don't even want to hear people pointing to Shaq. Like, don't give me Shaq have one pretty good season. and all of a sudden we feel like he's going to be like ready to go for a long time. If he
Right.
does it again, like if he does this for 2 or 3 more years, I'm going to say that's impressive. That's some TD comeback back into your career, making stuff look a lot better. But we have so many free agents leaving potentially. Like the defense is just going to look so different. So I don't even know if we can even say that we're close on the defense. There are so many questions, and the Panthers, we feel like, again, and I don't want to just overly redo the same conversation we've had for the last year, but like we had a moment where we were in the QB market at the QB time, and QBs were around, and we didn't do it. So now, are we going to panic and get a guy because now we didn't do it last year? We didn't have the guts to do it that last year, so now we feel like we got to do it this year. And they tried to go out in free agency and get Matt Stafford. But, this is what I was going to go back and say, Cody, is that I know that you're saying, like, hey, we can't just compare ourselves laterally to these teams, or you don't like the probability thing, right? It's like play it safe.
Yeah.
But
lazy.
if you are going and getting Sam Darnold, right, like we did, wouldn't your, like, you already know that the odds that there's a probability that it won't work. So then you're going to not put an offensive line around him. So if you are going to, I mean, you do need to account for probability. And that is, even if you get a quarterback, it would help to give him time to throw the ball. So
Absolutely.
like these have to come together, right? It's like, did the chicken or the egg come first? Well, I don't know, but they got to happen together.
You know,
and we gotta fix this. It's not going to get better until those two questions are fixed. If you have one and you don't got the other, it's not going to work. That's just that simple.
Would anyone be comfortable trading 3 first-round picks and Brian Burns and Jeremy Chin to the Houston Texans for Deshaun Watson?
What is it?
Yeah.
Tell me what it was.
So 3 first-round picks. Because all the rumors were they wanted 3 first-round picks and they wanted 2 players, preferably on defense, right?
Right.
So
they got to take Darnold. They got to take some contract from us, though.
Brian Burns, Jeremy Chin, and 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson. Are y'all doing that? And
dude, I don't know. Like,
granted, this is
it's expensive.
Keep in mind,
it's very expensive.
This is not considering any off the field stuff. Let's say Deshaun isn't going to play. He'll be fine to play. Yeah. Just straight up for Deshaun. I'm taking that deal.
I'm not, because then you're putting him in the exact same position that you'd be putting Joe Burrow in, except for now your defense is about 10 times worse. And you're giving up 3 first.
Yes, I don't know if it is 10 times worse. I think it is like less certain, right? Like you don't have. I just feel like Jeremy Chin is easily replaced.
Let's talk about this though, right? He might be easily, but I don't know if it's easily replaced is the way I would describe Jeremy Chin. Is he replaceable? I think that there's still a possibility for that. But I think when you look at it from this part, right? If you're giving away our first round picks for the next 3 years, let's go ahead and assume that we're not getting any high, high percentage superstars like you would normally get, right? So you're taking that out of the equation. We already are at a draft deficit this year. You're taking on a much bigger contract from a quarterback in Deshaun Watson than you have to deal with Sam Darnold. Even if you trade those two, the offsetting is going to be heavily in favor of Deshaun Watson. And then on top of that, Deshaun Watson is going to need to be extended at some point later as well. He's going to need an extension before our 3 first round draft picks are finished, and before we get another first round draft pick. All right. So there's a lot of move. Like, I just don't know that you can fill those holes that you'd be creating by getting rid of those guys, giving away 3 first round picks, and then somehow trying to figure out a way to fix the offensive line. I wouldn't do that deal.
Well, I think that the argument is that it's easier to find a Jeremy Chin or a Brian Burns in the draft than it is to find a Deshaun Watson. Look
and
at how
even
many.
more affordable to get them in free agency
Yeah, and
as
then
well.
look at, and that's another thing too. Two bits of information that you have to tack on to that argument is if you have a good quarterback and a good running back and a good receiver, which the Panthers do have, you are going to entice people to want to come to Carolina. On top of that, look how many good offensive linemen have been found in the later rounds that aren't first round picks. I mean, look at what Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey did for
Oh
the
God, if I
Kansas
have to
City
hear
Chiefs
these
this year.
guys' names anymore,
How about
I feel like
Deontay Brown and Brady Christensen? There's lots of good offensive linemen to be found in the later rounds. And if those two pan out, then we're not an entire offensive line rebuild away. We might need one or two more players, and our offense is good to go. You're
Yeah.
cooking with gas.
Can I tell you why I don't think you're right? It is difficult to find a quarterback of that caliber, right? The reason I don't think that giving away 3 first-round draft picks makes a lot of sense is if you look at historically the Carolina Panthers, and I'm not going to consider the last 5 years because these guys haven't had an opportunity to really create a name for themselves yet. Derek Brown still has an opportunity, but if you look historically, it at least one out of every 3 draft classes in the first round, we've gotten a team defining pick, right? Julius Peppers, Jordan Gross, Thomas Davis, D'Angelo Williams, as much as people want to say that maybe that's not there, John Beeson, Jonathan Stewart. I mean, these are guys that all happen in the first round, right? And then you look at Cam Newton, Luke, Star Lotulelei. Even though we didn't sign him, he was an all-pro, and he was an incredible player for us before he left, and he's done a fantastic job for the Bills. Then you think about Christian McCaffrey. I mean, the reality is you're giving up a pretty much a surefire superstar that is going to be difficult to find because have we found a Luke? No, we haven't found a Luke. Have we found somebody like a Thomas Davis? We have not. Have we found a Jordan Gross? Fuck no, we haven't found a Jordan Gross, right? Those are hard things to come by. And so to give up 3 first-round picks with that in mind, knowing that at least one of those, they're not all going to pan out. We might be hopeful that they're going to pan out, but they're not all going to pan out. All 3 of those, but at least one of them is going to be a team-defining superstar, and you're giving that up for a guy that and other things on top of that. I just don't know that that's worth it.
I like the one thing it gets scary when people say, look at how much money these guys like. All right, so Kenneth put up the salary cap hit that he's gonna have, that 40 million, right? And you go, oh good God, this is gonna ruin us. Then you hear all those picks, and you're like, oh my God. Let's talk about first round picks, though, that the Panthers have stumbled and bumbled on, though. You just named a bunch of first round picks that have worked. But there is, as of late, some just okay first round picks. Now, what I want to just say is that the one thing I like is, and the Watson thing is just so effing complicated because of the legal situation.
Off the field stuff.
Yeah. If that didn't exist, it would be, first of all, we wouldn't be the bidders for it. Another team would do this in a heartbeat.
Right.
The Rams would be doing this.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers would be doing it.
Yeah. But what I do like about it is that that's a known quality. It's a known entity. So yeah, is he getting paid $40 million? But he's also worth $40 million on the field.
Can I ask
when I want to say is like, yes, there are different ways to skin a cat, like Cody. So yeah, you can get that rookie quarterback on the young deal and try to add around him quickly like the Kansas City Chiefs did. But there's also a lot of teams that tried to do that and it hasn't worked. So I mean, it is the Watson thing is I think the Rams have kind of showed us that a little bit is that, right. Hey, first round picks are good for teams that are rebuilding, but like the Rams have a lot of people they drafted playing for their team. They just weren't drafted in the first and second or the first round.
Yeah.
because they gave all those away to get some of these superstars.
Yeah, but you're getting Jalen Ramsey, and you're not getting a CJ Henderson.
Proven commodity.
Could be. Yeah, it's just like, hey, man,
Right.
and you know what these guys are as pros. I think that the Watson one, though, because of his age, is enticing.
Right.
Yes.
I think it's a lot different than for us. We can't do that for Aaron Rodgers.
Can I ask a question? It's been heavily reported, and we can pretty much probably decide that it's fact at this point, that Deshaun Watson's preferred place was Miami. Let's talk about context. Is Miami even on the list anymore for him?
No, I don't think so. And I don't know if Philadelphia is either. Apparently, I saw a tweet today that people still expect the Eagles to be very aggressive in the quarterback market. But I kind of think they made the playoffs with Jalen Hurts, Jalen Hurts this year. So,
right.
I don't think Miami would be an option. I really don't think.
Yeah, but they got smoked in the playoffs. They kind of backed in. It's not like really.
And they have all the capital
Eagles,
to do it. For them, it's so easy for them to do because they already have 3 first-round picks this year.
Right.
So it's
boom. Let's
them.
get this sucker done right now.
Yeah, and they're not even giving up that much. They can still have a bunch of picks and be able to to get a bunch of players in. The only thing I'll say about trading 3 first-round picks though is this: look doesn't 2015 for some of us seem like last year? Or the year before?
Feels like a million years ago.
Yeah, it feels a long time ago for me.
Maybe to you all, but it's like, dude, to me, time goes so fast that it's like, dude, those 3 years are over in a blink.
But
and
that's
if you
also
have
his career,
if you have a good if you have a good talent evaluator and you're able to find those players in the later rounds, and you have guys wanting to come and play here, I'm telling you, man, those first round picks, as important as they are, they're not as integral as people sometimes make them out to be.
They can be. They can be when they hit, and they're not when they don't. And when they just kind of hit, they're also, so there's all these different ways to look at it, but let's go ahead and look at it from a different way. And that is say, all right, we don't have the capital to do this move. Like you said, it's easy for the Eagles to do this. This is a harder sell for us. Not only have people, we don't have a great roster as it is. We don't have a lot of draft capital. We don't have a lot of free agency money. We are the dark horse candidate. And I wouldn't even say it's like it probably would work the least for us out of a lot of other teams. So then what is the next? What are our other alternatives? The other alternatives, I think, are, just incrementally getting better, going and drafting a guard, a lineman, running Sam Darnold out there, having another cruddy year, and positioning ourselves much like the Colts did or the Cowboys did for a while. And that is, we need to get, we want to get our quarterback, but we don't have the assets to do it right now. And I just feel that's where the Carolina Panthers, that's probably the real reality of our situation.
If you knew that trading for Deshaun Watson would produce one of the most electric offenses in the NFL, would you do it? Think about this offensive line, right? So, again, let's just look at the glass half full. Let's assume that Christensen and Deontay Brown are starting caliber players that are good enough to go.
That's like a glass cuppeth overflowing. That's not glass.
No, I've seen evidence that they are good players. So until I see otherwise, I'm inclined to believe that they are. Okay. Now you add Christian McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore. By the way, we still haven't seen anything yet close to the potential from Terrace Marshall Jr. or Shi Smith that we drafted as well. So when you add those things together, and you have a franchise quarterback that you feel like you could rely on, if you knew that you could be even close to what the Bengals were this year, and now you have Deshaun that people are going to want to come and play with, dude, I'm all over that deal. I'm all over that deal, man, because we know how hard it is to get a franchise quarterback. And I like some of the quarterbacks in this class. I'm not, I know you call Pickett white Teddy Bridgewater. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
agree with
I
that
think so.
assessment. I also do think Malik Willis has tremendous upside, and I wouldn't, if those are our guys going forward, okay, there's a way to make those players work. But again, it's like what you were saying with the Rams bringing in Jalen Ramsey and Von Miller. It's like, that you have these proven commodities and those kinds of players. And to be able to bring that to Carolina, I just don't know how many opportunities you're going to get to do that, because the alternative is now kind of looking like you're in quarterback purgatory for the foreseeable future.
What's the realistic asking price for Deshaun Watson? Because I don't think 3 first rounds is even close to what you're going to get for what they're going to get for him right now.
You think it's going to be less?
Way less.
Oh, well, then that makes it even cooler. But Kevin, our boy Kevin, said we don't even know if he's going to be able to play, right? I mean, he could face a suspension.
But that's what I mean. Like, I think right now the Houston Texans are not going to have Deshaun Watson. They already know that, right? And the more they continue to let him go, they're paying him to be on the roster. If they let him do exactly what he did last year, and this thing continues to drag out, they're gonna sell low and then just get something instead of nothing. Do exactly what Cody wanted to do with Curtis Samuel. Get rid of him, get something for him instead of nothing. Now, is it going to mean that we're going to get him for a 3rd round pick? No. But I think that you're going to have a lot more interest and a little bit more of a bidding war if you were to say, hey, listen, maybe a 1st round and some players or something along those lines. Right now, 3 first rounds is too steep of a price for any team. I don't think there is a single team out there that is going to be willing to pay 3 first round picks right now.
I'm on the exact opposite end of this argument. If anything, I think they might be able to ask for more. If he beats those charges, and he is able to officially play football, looking at the playoffs this year alone, look at Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. Now you add Matthew Stafford to this. Tony led with it. If you don't have a franchise quarterback, dude, you're spinning the wheels, man. And I think that this season alone has proven that if you can get a franchise quarterback, that there's almost nothing else that could give your team a boost like that.
Let me ask you a question. How many of those teams that you talked about traded their 3 years worth of draft picks for the QB? Now, you can talk about the 1st round draft picks that the Rams traded away for multiple superstars, right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about trading those same things that would give that quarterback the weapons that they need to be able to actually do what some of these guys have done. You're talking about trading him. Well, the Bills, let's go ahead and put them into perspective, right? They used a lot of their draft capital to get Stephon Diggs. If they didn't draft Josh Allen and they had to trade for Josh Allen they wouldn't have had the ability to get a Stephon Diggs. They wouldn't have had those pieces to be able to actually build around that team and make them as explosive as they are. That's why I think I agree. I think there are a lot of people out there who are looking at this and thinking, you know what? This he could go for 3 first round draft picks. But I also know that teams are going to look at this from the perspective of, if you see the most successful teams out there, they're not giving away that many draft picks for one player.
I wonder what is I'm almost tired of even talking about Deshaun Watson, because until we have more information, it's kind of hard to say. Is is 3 first rounds maybe worth it if you are if you have no fear that he is going to run into any legal, if this legal stuff is behind him, right? Okay. It just is so much is just, there's so many unknowns with the Deshaun Watson thing. That's insane. And that's just what makes it difficult. If he was just a clean as a Boy Scout,
he would be
what
worth
would the price be?
Rounds, yeah.
It would be 3 first rounds and a play, but I don't think you can really get much more than that. I think it's first, there's only so many years ahead you can give picks up. So maybe somebody says, I'll give you 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 2 thirds. something like that. You could do something like your draft for the next 2 years, basically. But all right, so let's pivot away from Deshaun Watson because we will be talking about him plenty going forward.
Right.
Until we're not. Right. Until Deshaun Watson is on another team or the Carolina Panthers, we will be talking about Deshaun Watson at some point.
Oh yeah, it's not
like a
going
cloud.
away. I've been trying to warn you guys for months. Do you think you're tired of it now, Tony? This Deshaun Watson conversation is not going away. I think my man Drew here in the chat room was the one who said it, man. David Tepper is gonna go all in for Deshaun Watson. He's been enamored with him, and today he was trending on Twitter. Deshaun. So a lot of people are putting out that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are apparently going to be very aggressive for either Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson. So that had his name trending today.
I think
Deshaun
wouldn't Russell Wilson make more sense for them though? If you're a team that has a lot of pieces already, you can get it's a price tag that is not going to be about the same or even less. And you don't get any. You don't have to place a bet that's so risky. Russell Wilson is just as good.
I think Deshaun's better than Russell, but I like Russell.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think if I was a team that was pretty well developed, I would be looking for somebody that has a better asking price with less baggage. Is that there's just a baggage too. At some point now, we got to say this is out of all these things is that we're going to hear like the ethics of this is like the NFL like selling out just to win. Even if if this guy pays off 22 people and has 22 NDAs, it doesn't mean the shit didn't happen. It means
he doesn't want NDAs. Deshaun Watson has refused to sign an NDA.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know the details. We'll have to see. But is that if this comes out that this wasn't just completely made up and fabricated, there's still a cloud that comes with it.
Right.
Sure.
And we are living in a world now. I know that winning changes everything, but I'm so sick of people like, what would you say? You always say virtue signaling.
Yeah.
Right. Is that like, why don't we just have virtue? Don't signal it. Like, just have it. If you really are going to say this shit, then stick to it. Then you should say, there are things that are, if we're going to get so pissed about somebody kneeling about the damn national anthem, then we should be pissed about others.
But the NFL can't punish him when there is no, there's no legally, he didn't break any laws. He's a free man who is free to play football.
And
if you know someone, there's a difference between not breaking any laws and not being convicted for breaking laws. And I'm not saying the NFL needs to punish him. I'm talking about what does it say about your franchise if you're going to try to say, oh, we care about the community, we care about doing the right thing and the right stuff all the time, and then you're like, well, you know what? Let's bail this dude out of jail and get him to play. I mean, is that like if you beat a rap? All right, so how about this? Is the people that murdered Emmett Till, they beat the rap, dude. They didn't not murder the dude. So you could be like, well, this is in the 1950s. I'm just saying that at some point, if we're going to talk shit about character all the time and how we really care about this stuff, is that then we really need to. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's complicated with Deshaun Watson. It's not complicated with Russell Wilson. It's not complicated with Russell Wilson. It's not even complicated with Aaron Rodgers. Like, people are trying to get Aaron Rodgers kicked out for saying, it's like it's just because he's a jerk.
Or just because he didn't want to get a vaccine. My thing with Deshaun Watson is, though, it's like at the end of the day, he is going to either be guilty or innocent. And if he is innocent, the NFL isn't going to give a damn. And I understand the point that you're making, too. It's like, as a society, we claim to care about these issues. And then the moment that a player comes forward who's a very good player, but now he has all these accusations against him, it's like, a lot of people are going to be just willing to sweep that under the rug because it means you're getting a good football player. So I do understand your point. And yeah, it's definitely going to be a weird conversation because even let's just say Deshaun Watson is found 100% innocent. There are going to be people that are like, nah, fuck Deshaun Watson. You don't have that many people accusing you of something and have all of them be false. And that's, people are going to make up their minds. But at the end of the day, if you have a quarterback that's putting butts in seats and making you a contender in the playoffs and for a Super Bowl, dude, if the dollars are going to be what dictates what happens.
Dictates is a good way of saying it when talking about Deshaun Watson. And I swear, if Deshaun Watson becomes our quarterback, we are co-opting the dildo celebration from the Buffalo Bills.
The Bildo.
If we don't throw dildos on the field with Deshaun Watson, big black ones.
Now, let's not discriminate color. Let's say all different colors of every different size and shape. Throw them on the field if you got them. Come on.
All right. Let's squeeze in a couple cat calls. The number's 252-228-5098. Tell us what you guys want to talk about. You want to talk about Deshaun Watson? You want to talk about Russell Wilson? You want to talk about Kenny Pickett? All of a sudden, right? You want to talk about just playing it safe or playing for the future and drafting offensive line? The number's 252-228-5098.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good. Like,
is that blasting? Is it too loud?
It's fine to me.
Thoughts on the Panthers nation? I saw a bunch of them at Keystone today. Saw a lot of dudes wearing Panther jerseys on the ski slope. So that's what I just wanted to talk about here in Colorado. So yeah, keep pounding.
Oh man, Panther people out on the ski slopes, man. Thank you for that.
Nice.
The Mountain Cats. Next call. I think if it plays. Hello. Maybe not.
Hey guys, it's Joey. We're talking about Deshaun Watson, and what if he's not able to play for the year? Well, the thing is that we would love for him to be able to play for a year. We'd look really dumb if he doesn't play. That there's no question that, like, here you trade for this guy that, is a PR issue that has some fans that are not really fans, honestly, because they draft someone that has had some very sketchy accusations levied against them, and you jump ship, then how much of a fan were you? But we might look dumb, but then we could have a tank year. Then we could build around Deshaun Watson when he is able to play. So here you go. You take advantage of an opportunity. You don't miss the opportunity. Our former coach and our current coach is a giant missed opportunity. I mean, he's a walking missed opportunity, but, So I think trading for Deshaun is something to look at. If you're David Tepper and Scott Fitter, I think the benefits outweigh the risks. And if you want a player that has high reward, then you're gonna have to risk a lot.
Yeah.
People who ain't got no balls don't get shit. I mean, look at Sam Darnold. He ain't got no balls, and he ain't shit. Anyway, guys. Wow.
Ooh, I like the bellow that he held right before the growl. I like that, Joey. Switching it up. Joey's giving us some different growls here.
How about what do you guys think about the Kyler Murray stuff?
It's
Kyler Murray is defriended, or is kind of separated himself a little bit from the Cardinals media in hopes of an extension. And then now there are a couple of stories that are floating around that kind of question his maturity. You guys' thoughts about Kyler Murray's future with the Cardinals?
Yikes, man. This is a weird one. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been really, really following it. Kyler Murray took down all his Cardinal stuff from his social media. And then now, all these reports are coming out. And they're coming directly from the Cardinals organization,
right.
Trying to say that, Kyler Murray has bad body language. He's not really dedicated to winning. He's not really a good, teammate. And they're trying to put all these different things on him. And, my thing is this, right? So when I was doing my evaluation of Kyler Murray, I would watch a bunch of interviews with his, because I do put interviews as a part of my evaluation. I can't actually interview them myself. So I try and get a picture of what kind of player or person that we're dealing with. Very uncomfortable in interviews. Kyler Murray is not a people person. Everything that they said about Justin Herbert coming out of the draft, is he a good leader? Is he vocal enough to be able to motivate a football team as the quarterback is supposed to do? Well, all of those questions to me were more relevant for Kyler Murray, because to me, they were a genuine question that I had about him. So when I'm hearing all these things about Kyler, it doesn't necessarily surprise me, and it even kind of holds up to my initial opinion of him. Now, granted, look at the Cardinals going from Josh Rosen to Kyler Murray. I think I read somewhere that their general manager has had 3 or 4 different quarterbacks in his time being the general manager for the Cardinals. So it's what are you doing going back into the quarterback market? Do you dislike Kyler Murray that much that you're willing to start all over and trying to draft another quarterback, or potentially, or potentially, getting another free agent to come to Arizona? None of this makes any sense to me. You're the ones who drafted him. You should commit to him.
Well, you don't have to pay him early, though. And that's what this is a power play for him to try to get. I think this is all contractual. Him just trying to get an extension while, they have had some really powerful improvements, right? Some noteworthy improvements going forward before he gets hurt, before something else happens. Think about this, is that the odds are that they're going to have trouble recreating the success they had this year and next year, because they're an aging squad. You mean talking about AJ Green, TJ Watt, right? Isn't that the one that's there?
JJ Watt.
JJ Watt, thank you. So I mean, even Chandler Jones is pretty old. He's 31 or something, I think. So is that, I think these guys should be trying to power push for money when they can before the moment is gone, right? Because you think there's going to be a lot of time down the road, and there isn't a lot of times. I think this is contractual. I think this is also a non-story. I don't think, like you said, this is what it feels like to not have a quarterback. And I said this for so many years with Cam. Do you remember how many people were critical of Cam as a quarterback just when he was playing at his better football, right? In his better years, in his first 5 years, people were still very critical about Cam, his consistency, throwing the ball, his footwork, all these things that they would talk about. And I would say, all right, those are valid points. Does he tend to throw the ball high? Yes. Does he have, inconsistent footwork at times? Yes. But that's focusing on the negatives and not saying, look at all the awesome shit he does.
Right.
And what it's like is that living the land, it's like walking through the forest, the dark woods. I'm like Frodo on his little adventure in the dark forest.
Yeah.
The land without a quarterback is a scary land. It's just better to have a quarterback. And so the Arizona Cardinals were searching for their quarterback. They got one that we think is a NFL caliber starting quarterback. You ain't trying to get rid of that. This ain't a Baker Mayfield moment. This ain't a Daniel Jones moment where you think you don't know if the guy is really legit. So I think it's a non-story. I think that the Cardinals, it wouldn't make much sense for them to try to dip their toe back into that water. Unless there's something going on that he just doesn't like the team. But that seems kind of strange because they've had a lot of success. I've heard that he's become more and more of a vocal leader in the locker room over the couple of years. And he was so young and little. You know, it's kind of hard to just come in and be the leader when you haven't even earned your stripes, especially when you're a midget. You know, it's not like you like tower over the people. Yeah, but like, I mean, it's already difficult enough to be a rookie. I don't know. I just don't feel like you can go in and.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. He's not a rookie anymore.
No, so I mean, he's 3 years in now, right?
Right.
4?
So it's if you're still experiencing the same things with him, but then you're like, okay, well, what are we doing here? Is he or isn't he a franchise quarterback? And again, man, like a lot of people just want to instantly kind of write things off as, oh, look at people making shit up. Listen, I'm not in the Cardinals locker room. I don't know who Kyler Murray is or isn't, but it doesn't seem very far-fetched to me that he's not necessarily a motivator. By the way,
this is what Chandler Jones said about him.
You also don't have to be. Look at Luke Kuechly, one of the best players that the Panthers have ever had, bar none. And he was never a rah-rah, get in your face, time to get up and go kick ass type of guy either, you know? So there are different leadership styles. So, you know, I don't know. But I mean, even the thoughts of, you know, trading for Kyler, whoever does trade for Kyler, they're gonna have to pay him. These quarterbacks are less and less likely
no one's trading for him though.
To pay they don't want to play on a 1-year franchise tag or whatever
this
it is.
This is what Chandler Jones said about him. He said, Kyler is great. He's a hell of a player. I love him. It's good to watch him grow, to see him orchestrate the offense. His voice is getting louder and louder in the locker room. And you can see that he's grabbing a lot of guys' attention. That comes with time. It also comes with positive and great play. He's been doing that He's earning the respect from the guys. He's like a little brother to me. I always pick on him. I also love this New York Post website where you can highlight text and then just share it to Twitter. That's super cool. Like, so you can just highlight a quote and then it links it. That's pretty neat. Yeah. So I think that, but again, quarterback or not the quarterback, until you got a quarterback, you don't have a future really. You know, I mean, in fact, is that the chips are already, like, I just want to point this out, is that the stars have to align perfectly when you already have the roster. You know, I mean, look at so many teams in the NFL that were built to win this year. Look at the Green Bay Packers. Look at who's next. I mean, even the Bengals, right? Is like they had this kind of magic moment, and they still weren't able to pull up. It's like everything has to go right. And that's the case when you have a quarterback. How is it? You know, think about how much more has to go right when you have Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
And I think that's the one thing I like what the Rams demonstrated to us is the Rams said, man, we were here just a few years ago, but like everything's going to have to be perfect for us to win with Jared Goff. We need a quarterback that can come back and win. Like Stafford in this case, you know, I mean, they're down and he's got to go get it done. And I just don't know if Jared Goff does that with Cooper Kupp. Yep. And, you know, I mean, like the not being able to run the ball at all. And then all of a sudden you kind of got to will it and you got to make some big time throws in big moments. You got to be able to play from behind in this league, even though you don't want to. The number's 252-228-5098.
Yo, guys, what is up?
It's Nick.
You guys are enjoying a nice freezing cold Tuesday evening, talking about our lovely and kind of shitty Carolina Panthers. In reality, the only thing that's really shitty is the QB, but that's besides the point. Anyways, so I gotta ice some people up and I'm going to include myself in this because of how long it took for me to do this. All you guys listening on Spotify, okay? And if there's any other streaming apps or anything like that where you can listen to the podcast and they have the rate function, I gotta ice you guys up. Went on Spotify today and realized that only 9 people had left a rating.
Ooh.
Guys, we gotta share this show, man. Tony's been doing this for the last 9 years, almost every Tuesday night. And you're going to let him down by not giving him a 5-star review? Guys, ice up.
I like it.
Hit that like button. And guys, I'll see you Friday.
I love that.
Hell
That is something, is that we kind of sometimes get a little too focused on our YouTube community. I won't say too focused, but we have such a rich group of people that even Nick is among those who are in the chat room with us. Sometimes we just kind of pump up like this platform. But yeah, we are on iTunes. We're in Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast. I would say, I used to say Tune In, but I found out I think Tune In is a paid app now entirely. Like, I don't even think you can use that for free anymore. Not entirely, but like Google Podcasts, wherever you listen, that is a nice thing you could do, is you could hit the little 5-star. You can hit the 4-star. You hit any star for all I care. I'd love for it to be a 5-star. I'd love for you guys to see the commitment we have to building a community that you're a part of, that you can call in, that you can be on the show on Friday nights. You can, join all the other extra content that we're trying to put together. I know things are slowing down a little bit at the moment, but as news starts to break, we'll get more and more. And I'm trying to do some small fun stuff over the past week, calling Cody out on the internets, stuff like that. But that does help us to get discovered, is that I kind of wonder sometimes, like, man, like, how are we not ranked higher when we're the only ones that still do it? Like, I mean, a lot of these people are going to take off. A lot of the other Panthers podcasts, and God bless them, maybe they're the smart ones, but they're taking off this off season, or they're going to take some time off, and we're going to keep coming here because we actually just like the friendship and the camaraderie that this has created for us. And it is fun to work. When else are you going to run down these rabbit holes of Deshaun Watson? You can't do it during the season when we're actually talking about the game. The podcast is already 72 hours as it is. So this is the time we get to have these thought experiments. But again, quarterback or not the quarterback is the question. And Cody, we've talked about the sexy Deshaun Watson, or the salacious, should we say, Deshaun Watson. We've talked about the underwhelming maturity of Kyler Murray. And Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers seemingly don't have any interest. I heard Aaron Rodgers. You guys hear Aaron Rodgers was like buying property in Tennessee?
Yeah,
I heard. Yeah, I mean,
I think I mentioned that. Did I mention it?
Yeah, you mentioned it like 50 times.
Okay,
I don't know.
I mean, they're a go-to destination. I think that's the team to play for right now.
Yeah. If you started to see him sell his properties in Green Bay, like you saw Tom Brady do in New England, then I'd be more concerned for the Pats at that point in time. But I mean, he had a great year. They're clearly they're investing in keeping him there. I don't know that he's going to be moving anywhere.
Y'all saw, and Kevin brought this up in the chat, is I saw that if the Broncos and who was it else? One other team missed on Brady or Wilson, that they might be in the running for Carson No Ankles Wentz. Do you know that guy? And I've said this in a couple of times. This was the best thing, is that at one point Carson Wentz was on the injury report and it said ankles.
Yeah, he fucked up both of them at the same time.
But it's like, imagine if it was like knees. You're on the injury report for what? Head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
So can I just say this, right? People online have been talking about the potential of the Panthers trading for Carson Wentz. Dude, let me tell you, man, I might take a year off. If after Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Darnold, and then you're going to go and get Carson Wentz and that dog shit contract that he has. It's like, dude, what other way could you signal to the fan base you should have absolutely zero faith in us?
Well, that's
We
probably what's
have
going to happen then.
zero idea. Oh, that's what I put on Twitter, man. Like, our coach, Captain Savaho, Matt Rule, is always down for any restoration project that you give him to try and build a franchise quarterback out of a player everyone thought was bullshit. So, it would go in line with everything that we've thought about Matt Rule and David Tepper, that they do a terrible job at evaluating what a real franchise quarterback is. So dude,
then that begs the question is, should you draft one if you can't evaluate them in free agency? How do you evaluate them in the draft when you haven't even seen them play in the NFL? And I'll turn this question to you. Your thoughts on this quarterback? Us at 6. And my concerns with drafting a quarterback this year is, man, it sucks to draft a quarterback and then get your coach fired and then have a new guy and a new regime come in and inherit a decision made by the former guys. So, again, we're coming back to like, just draft a damn lineman.
Yeah, I mean, again, draft a lineman. Who's your quarterback?
It's going to have to be. I mean, well, I don't know who it's going to have to be. It's going to be Sam Darnold, I guess.
No, I hear this. I continue to hear this. In fact, I'll make a bet with you. Sam Darnold is not our starting quarterback to start the season.
I mean, I don't want to make that bet. You still owe me like 10 bets, dude, by the way. And one of those is Terrence Marshall Jr.
Dude,
so you owe me money for Terrence
Dude, because I don't remember something that happened over a year ago.
600. You said you have to remind 600 yards. This dude didn't even get 100 yards.
Yeah, but that's not his fault.
You should pay me
fine, whatever. I'll pay up my shit.
No.
Tally it up. I'll pay up my shit.
I think you're right, though. I don't think that. Here's the thing: is because that is the case doesn't mean it's right. The right decision is my point. And so, yes, is that I think you're probably the odds are that he won't be. I think this franchise has showed us that they're ready to move and shake after a mistake right away. I mean, like Teddy, boom, gone, out the door. Sam Darnold could be potentially out the door. Is that the right decision? I'm not sure. Especially like to go get Carson Wentz. So what do you think? All right, if it's not, is it then is it a guy who starts for the Carolina Panthers, a guy who has never played a snap in the NFL, or a guy who has played a snap in the NFL, Cody? If you don't think it's Sam Darnold. So you don't got to give me the player. Does that mean that we're drafting a rookie and putting him out there from day one, or are we bringing in another free agent?
Probably. And it's not going to be because
well, which one?
Panthers, I think it's going to be someone who hasn't played a snap. I think it's we're going to probably
draft.
I mean, look, we're probably going to take Kenny Pickett at 6.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, but there's a lot of time left.
How do you feel about that as you've started watching more and more about as you're doing your draft research? What are your thoughts?
Well, I told you you're wrong, and I know me telling you you're wrong is not going to stop you from saying it, but he is not a white Teddy Bridgewater. He is much more mobile. He's much more athletic. He does have a better arm, and his baby hands never prevented him from putting on good performances in inclement weather up in Pittsburgh. Joe Burrow has worn gloves on both hands at times this year. The hand thing, similar to Brady Christensen's arm length, it just flat out doesn't bother me as much as it does other people. That being said, I think it's been proven you don't have to have the biggest arm to be successful in the NFL.
Yeah.
I do think that you're going to have to build around him. I like his bravado. I think he's tough. I don't know yet, though. I mean, it's one of those things where he doesn't have the the jump off of the field talent that you saw in a player like Justin Herbert or Josh Allen,
Well,
or
isn't
even
that a problem?
or even
Man?
a Trey
Isn't that a problem?
Lance.
Isn't that a problem? Kind of is that you're drafting average.
Well, I mean, but
there's
the
there's examples of guys who haven't had like crazy physical traits that have done well in the NFL. Think about Tom Brady. I mean, like we can go down a list of guys that have been okay, but at the same time, wouldn't it be better to have a cannon than not to have a cannon?
Sure.
Wouldn't it be better to be mobile than be immobile?
Yeah,
right?
but
and so you've pointed to mobility. Okay. For me, when I watched him throw the ball recently, actually, even when I just watched his highlights, I would say this: he looked like a smooth quarterback. So he threw deep balls. They hit guys in stride, looked good, felt good. But I felt like also is everything looks a lot better in college than it does in the NFL. It's like everybody is so much faster in the NFL. So I've seen players in college look really fast. You're like, man, that guy plays football so fast.
And then
you put them in the NFL and they just look normal.
Yeah.
Because the other players on the field are slow. So
it's like having a girl who has like 7 friends. Like the friends, they're a 7 on the attractive scale. But she's like an 8, but she looks like a 10 because she's around all the 7s. That
and so, or even 5s at that point. And so that's the one thing when I watch the Kenny Pickett stuff. What you're selling right now with Pickett is that he's got tape that overrides these measurables, right? And you're also saying that he is the most polished. That was the rep, is that he's the most pro-ready quarterback. We've heard that so many times in the past, though. We heard that about Josh Rosen. We heard that about Jimmy Clausen. We heard that, about Blaine Gabbert. And that's the question mark is I'm not sure that Kenny Pickett is not going to be good. I just don't know if everything says that screams Justin Herbert to me.
So you want to know my comparison for him right now? My comparison for Kenny Pickett? Dak Prescott.
Dak's pretty big. I guess Kenny Pickett's all right.
They're the same.
He's 6'3".
Yeah, Kenny Pickett is 6'3", 220 pounds. Dak Prescott does not have a cannon of an arm. Dak Prescott is mobile, but he's not running a 4.5 or a 4. He's like a 4. Maybe 4.6, 4.7 type of player, but he's tough. He'll run when it's necessary, and he can make throws off platform and on the run. So while all the physical stats might not necessarily be there, you do see all the things that you want. So, like, even put it this,
Dak was
like,
a 3rd round pick too.
Yeah, Dak was a 3rd round pick, but physically, to me, they're similar quarterbacks. And, either of those guys could work. But again, like, I'm not even saying that's what I would do. Like, if I had my way, and granted, this is assuming that the man is innocent, to me, Deshaun Watson as a Panther is the thing that makes me the happiest. And I'm not even saying I could justify
but like
it.
that's also like so. But what if that isn't an option? How about this?
Then
is
it's
now that
probably
you
going to be a drafted quarterback.
Why is Willis an option, or do you think that the Panthers try to go like strong or maybe the guy that beat up Wayne Gretzky's kid? Did you hear about this story? Mississippi. Who's the guy from Corral?
Oh, Matt Corral? Yeah.
Yeah. He got kicked out of a prep school, a high school, because he got in a fight with Wayne Gretzky's kid. Yeah. So I mean, kind of trouble. I won't say troubled background, but he is like, man, the rich people got me out of it. Which I mean, yeah, as Wayne Gretzky's the great one. Which Cody, again, I haven't changed your mind about him being the greatest of greats. The second player in points behind him is 1,000 points behind him, dude.
Yeah,
like
but
800 points. Like it's like not even. It would be like this. It'd be like, oh yeah, Peyton Manning's got the second most touchdowns in the NFL, and you'd be like, oh, that sounds awesome. Well, how many more does the guy ahead of him have? 187 more. And you're like, whoa! He's
the GOAT soccer. I mean, he's the GOAT hockey player of all time. But he doesn't have anywhere near the level of popularity and worldwide fame, I think, of someone like Tom
he did
Brady.
20 years ago. That's a recency bias. Again.
Everyone knows Michael Jordan still. Everyone knows Michael Jordan.
Everyone knows
only
Wayne
because
Gretzky
of the
still.
shoes. Yeah, everybody knows Wayne Gretzky.
I'm talking worldwide, though.
Yeah,
worldwide.
I think
Hockey's
you're underestimating.
pretty big in most countries. Like it's honestly, like you look at Canada, Russia. I mean, like a lot of those European countries, they're going to have a pretty big, like hockey following. So I mean, I think Wayne Gretzky is still pretty big worldwide. But I do agree, Tony. I mean, you know, with Tony's take as well with Michael Jordan. I mean, you can't really compare the two because Michael Jordan has done a phenomenal job on trying to maintain a level of like.
So do I have to add a player from every sport into my GOAT list?
Yes.
Because then I guess I gotta put a soccer player in there since that's the most.
No. I would have to say this is just when there is a player that is so head and shoulders above statistically and in winning and all of these things, is that they have to qualify. So I think Serena Williams has to be like part, because it's not like there's like just because women's tennis isn't the most popular sport, they're head and shoulders more dominant in their field than anyone else. I don't know enough about soccer to say, you know, I guess, I mean, the only names I know, like Pele, someone, Ronaldo, I don't know, like whatever those names
Lionel
were.
Messi, Ronaldo.
But if there's somebody that has like
100,000
more, or, you know, 1,000 more goals than any of the other players, then yeah, I do think we probably, and look, again, you have recency bias. I have American bias.
I don't. I have the truth.
Recency bias.
The three dudes that I put in the GOATs, they have reached heights never before seen. I
think you're overrating Tiger now.
In their sports,
overrating Tiger, man.
And also, I don't put Tiger in there.
You said that you had three. It was Tiger, it was Brady, and Jordan.
No,
that's what you did that day.
Floyd Mayweather, Michael Jordan.
Him too. I love him.
It's Floyd Mayweather, Michael Jordan, and Tom Brady. Those are the three GOATs, in my opinion, because not only them destroying the competition in their own sport, but these guys are like worldwide known as the best at what they do.
I think underestimating Gretzky. All right, let's go to the next goal. I think.
Tony, Cody, all you guys, do a good job. This is Raleigh Lee. We don't need a quarterback this year. We can let Sam Darnold take his lump.
What's up, Raleigh?
He's going to be making the money. And basically, O-line, center, and some linebacker help. Do a little bit of trading, get rid of Jackson, and spend a little bit of what money's left. And once they get that experience, then go get our quarterback. Fuck Deshaun Watson.
Did he say F Deshaun Watson? Is that what he said? Listen to this. Is Wayne Gretzky played 20 seasons for 4 teams, including the Oilers and Kings. Oh, here is one cool thing, Cody, that you probably haven't thought about with Wayne Gretzky.
You know, I'm not saying that he sucks, right? Like, I know that there's never been a
he made LA a hockey town, dude. He made LA a hockey town, like a town that doesn't even care. Is that this dude came in and made the LA Kings. Like all of a sudden you had Eazy-E wearing LA Kings hat. Like that's how cool this guy was. He made Americans care about hockey. Listen to this. He had 894 goals, 1,963 assists, and a plus minus of plus 520 in 1,400 games. He won 9 Hart trophies, 5 Lady Bang trophies, 2 Conn Smythe trophies, and 4 Stanley Cups. This dude was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1999, right? I mean, it's been 22 years. It's just badass. It's just bad.
If I'm not putting a soccer player into my GOAT conversation, I'm not putting a hockey player.
Okay.
By the way, I'm a diehard MMA fan, and I'm not putting George St. Pierre or John Jones in my GOAT conversation. Like, not everyone can be a GOAT. Because then, Lewis Hamilton and Formula One, then you could put Serena Williams, then you could put Tiger Woods. Everybody wants to put everybody into the GOAT conversation. Not everyone can be in the conversation. That's why I have 3 people that to me are just head and shoulders above the rest. Everyone else you can make an argument, but they're not on that level to me. He's the greatest hockey player of all time. What else you want me to say? Like that's who Wayne
Yeah,
Gretzky
this is Raleigh Lee. I really don't care about Deshaun Watson. I'm tired of hearing of him. I wouldn't let him be around my family. Regardless, he's using a lot of money, I guarantee you, to buy things off. We need D-line, O-line, and especially a center. Before we even go thinking about a QB, we need to get them where they're familiar with each other and get them some experience. And I think then we need to go in and get us a quarterback. Thank you.
All right. So not a Watson fan. And I don't expect everyone to be.
Hey guys, it's Chuck from Elizabeth City.
What's up, Chuck?
AKA Carolina Sports Guy. I think we really are going to have to look, and we're going to try to have to strike gold in free agency. And normally you don't do that at the quarterback position, but I think we best look at the best linebacker, special teams, maybe pull a guard. And I know there's 2-3 positions of great need that we have for this team. One I know is a left tackle. And the kid from NC State might not be there. And Evan Neal is probably going number 1 to Jacksonville. There's not to say that we couldn't get a guy like Cross from Mississippi State, but he'll be there later than where we pick. Quarterback, Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett. If we draft one of those 2 and they don't make it, we're setting this franchise back. If we don't draft them and they perform well, we're going to look like idiots. So we're in a no-win situation there. And if we're going to pick one of those 2, we have to pick them at 6. We drop down a few picks, somebody else falls in love, we're going to lose out.
Yeah.
Now, I think the safest and smartest thing to do. No position in need of safety. I won't hit on that, but Kyle Hamilton, Notre Dame is there. But I think really the smartest thing we can do, take that number 6 pick, trade down about 6-7 spots, and try to pick up the center from Iowa. I think his name's Tyler Linebaum. We need a center. Strengthens our offensive line. We probably pick up another draft pick or 2. And it's just a smart, solid move. Ryan Khalil was a 2nd-round pick the year we got Dwayne Jarrett in the 2nd round as well, but we picked Ryan Khalil up in the 2nd round, and we never looked back. It was great, solidified our offensive line. We need a center. We can keep Chris in the left tackle, moving the left guard, and maybe we get another guy in the draft at tackle. I'm not sure. But we've got to strengthen the line. Try to get the linebacker into free agency. At quarterback, we're just going to have to get lucky, and I just don't see it in the draft yet. And I definitely don't see it in free agency. We're probably a year away, and I think that's all we can do, guys.
I mean, I think there's a lot of truth to that. Is that I understand the getting the quarterback. We're not going to get there until we get the quarterback, but we're also not going to do anything until we get an offensive line. They have to grow together. So we have to try to find a way to do both. We might not be able to do both immediately, but if the one thing we can't do is not work on either.
For sure.
Is that if we don't get the quarterback of the future or for the time being today, we better be working on the offensive line.
Right.
You just can't, you need to be working towards that direction together. And this offensive line needs to get a lot better. And I know that you can say, hey, it's not that far apart, right? And I do think sometimes we think we're so far away, and maybe coach is right. We're not that far away, But we also are one injury away every time from a great plan working. And so not only do you need to get some starters, but you got to have some guys that are going to be able to be good replacements when those starters get injured. So you can't ever have too many offensive linemen. You can't ever have too many defensive linemen.
Yeah, to me, every year you should be drafting offensive linemen. Every year, at some point in the draft, you should be taking offensive linemen. You should always be replenishing it. That's one of the things I've always given credit to the Saints. The Saints are always spending premium picks on their offensive line, and it pays off. That allows you to have quarterbacks that aren't necessarily as mobile. They're not physically as capable. You can take them in and plug and play. Guys like a Matt Stafford and a Drew Brees and a Matt Ryan and a Derek Carr, like guys that you want to be, mindful of the football field, sit behind the pocket and make good decisions. Well, you can do that when you have good offensive line play. And you should always be spending premium picks on those kinds of players because they do help you win football games. So, yeah, the answer is a little bit of both. Again, my only thing is, and maybe I'm just too much of an optimist here, but I don't think that our offensive line rebuild has to be very extensive, because I do think we have two very good football players on our team right now that can step in and do the job. Add one more guy to the mix, dude, we might be cooking with gas, man. It's like, that's why to me, now that time is continuing to go on, I'm like, maybe the quarterback really is what we should be focusing on right now, because if you don't have that quarterback, you're in NFL purgatory, man.
Shame them up.
Yeah, so we have reached that time once again. And, NFL football is over. It's over. So you don't have that to look forward to. And I hate that. I wish that we all still had good football to look forward to. But the simple fact of the matter is we don't. But there is one thing that you'll always be able to look forward to. My partner, CK, using them golden pipes to bestow the shame upon the people.
Ladies and gentlemen of the C3 Panthers podcast, you tune in after watching a Super Bowl that features two incredible quarterbacks, playoffs that were absolutely incredible, that gave you quarterback envy, that may have changed your mind about what we needed to draft this year. So you tune in to see what C3 had to say. But all of you that have not hit that thumbs up button, I have no idea why you show up. Hit this thumbs up button. This is your subscriber shame.
Subscriber shame. 102 strong viewers watching. 63 thumbs up. Hit that like. Hit that subscribe. Hit the notification bell for every single time we go live and put out new content that helps us grow Panther Nation. Hit the like. Hey, man, get in the comments, too. Comments always help out the channel. Let us know. Give us feedback. Tell us the content that you want to see. And we're going to continue to be here for you, man. This podcast is year-round. We go nowhere. We're here for the fans. Tony, let's move on.
As we play this next call, I want you to think about a comment in the chat room that asked who's your number one, number two offensive line. And both of those guys, you've looked at their film extensively. The State guy and the Charles Cross. But let's go to this call, see what they guys say. I think they have a quarterback take.
Malik Willis. That's the dude this draft. Malik Willis. Bro, Kenny Pickett is Marcus Mariota 2.0. And I used to be on the side of draft a linesman, right? Let's draft a linesman. Fuck that. Fuck the offensive lineman. I want a damn quarterback, okay? And by the way, I'm a true believer in Brady Christensen and Deontay Brown. Taylor Moton's already proven. We just need a good center in the offseason, and all we need is a couple of depth players and a depth right guard. It doesn't matter. You can have one mediocre spot if all your other spots are good. It's a gamble, but fuck it. The Rams gambled. It paid off. Oh. And by the way, people say they won't trade. We won't trade Sam Darnold because we owe him $20 million. We owe him $20 million no matter what. If they feel like he's an energy vampire or just kind of like brings down the team or is bad for the quarterback that we draft, and it's bad for his development, they would say it's worth the $20 million to just get rid of him. Maybe a Cam on a sweet deal, on a low deal, because that'd be the perfect guy for Malik Willis to be behind. I'm not saying it'll happen. That's just what I want. Kenny Pickett sucks, and I don't think Ben McAdoo is going to be the worst quarterback.
Your take on Charles Cross and whatever his name is.
Kim Ekwonu. So listen, I really like both of them. The question is, do you think that they're going to be able to quickly catch on to the things that they weren't asked to do much at their respective colleges? So Charles Cross comes from an air raid offense, and they throw the football, and they throw it downfield. In my mind, he is the best pure pass protecting left tackle in the entire draft, even more than Evan Neal. Evan Neal is a more well-rounded prospect, but if you're talking about pure pass protection, to me, Charles Cross is the best pass protector. But as you were able to see in the film room session that we did do on Charles Cross, he has the kind of aggression and athleticism that it does not take a bunch of imagination to imagine him, pull blocking, moving downfield, catching linebackers, being aggressive in the run game. I think Charles Cross could do that very well. On the other hand, I do think that Ikem Ekwonu could also be a very good pass protector as well. He's very aggressive. He's built very stout. He's the type of guy that they're probably going to, NFL teams are going to talk about moving him to guard because of how aggressive he is at the point of attack. So, both of these guys, you have to use a little bit of imagination when projecting them into the future. But I really like them both. If I had to pick right now, I would put Cross ahead by just a slight margin. But yeah, man, I'm really high on both of them. But I wanted to bring something up. He was talking about Malik Willis right there in that phone call. So last year, if you remember, for the 49ers, most of the rumors were that the San Francisco 49ers were in love with Mac Jones. But last minute, they ended up going with Malik Willis, with Trey Lance. I could see the Panthers being in a very similar situation where they might be in love with Kenny Pickett throughout the majority of the process, but then as the combine comes around, as the pro days come around, as they do more interviews and get guys into the building and actually meet with them in person, I could very easily foresee a scenario where the Panthers fall in love with the upside of Malik Willis over Kenny Pickett. And I think that is something that could definitely happen. So my thing is, once upon a time, Matt Rule was said to be a guy who loves the numbers, right? The intangibles. He loves the athletes. So part of that in my mind says, well, maybe he does fall in love with the Malik Willis type of quarterback. I don't know. There's a lot of unanswered questions that are still out there for us. But right now, either of them have to be in contention at number 6.
Let you know, this is funny. We actually kind of overlooked some of the news following, I guess with the Carolina Panthers, right? I mean, there actually was some small news. It's not the most exciting news. We went straight to the quarterback discussion. Panthers have been adding to their coaching staff and people have been leaving this coaching staff. We also said a former Pat Meyer offensive line coach was hired by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Good luck with that. But the Panthers also have acquired a new tight ends coach and a wide receivers coach. right? So last week, I think, and I don't know if we talked about it on the show last week or if it was just on Free for All Friday, but we had hired Steve Wilkes as the secondary, as the defensive backs coach. I think we did talk about that last
You
Tuesday.
did a video on it, but we didn't talk about it on the show.
Okay, so all right, so yeah, we've been adding to these discussion or to this coaching staff and the MO of Matt Rule. I gotta say, his credit's got to give credit where it's due. Is that if he's really going the other way on his coaching staff this time around and hiring the guys with a ton of NFL experience from the Chad Tabor guy that came from the special teams with the Bears, Ben McAdoo. Now Kevin Gilbride Jr. becomes the tight ends coach, and he is replacing, who was it? Brian Angelicho, who is leaving to go to another team to do the same thing. What's interesting about this is that Gilbride, who has spent his entire career in the NFL, his dad was the offensive coordinator for the Giants that Ben McAdoo ended up replacing. Isn't that kind of bizarre? So Ben McAdoo replaces this dude's dad, but then keeps Kelvin Gilbride to be his tight ends coach. So we're getting a seasoned guy. He's only 42 years old. And another thing I just learned by looking at these guys' bios, Kevin Gilbride Sr., the dad, was an ECU Pirates coach back in 1988 and 1989. So that's pretty interesting here. Your guys, Matt Rule's continuing to add to the staff. A lot of these acquisitions, I feel like, are about as best as you could do, given the circumstances. One of the things that Matt Rule put together was a coaching staff that was largely NFL inexperienced. In fact, totally NFL inexperienced. And some of that, I don't know if it was entirely his fault, just not having a lot of connections in the NFL, being a college guy. And now that he's in the NFL game, you know, maybe that has just forged a new kind of reputation. Maybe these are all guys trying to find a second life right now, trying to find an opportunity. And Matt Rule's one of those people. The Panthers adding to these coaches, on one hand, adding this experience is a good thing. Some people have been pointing out that other coaches leaving Carolina to go and pursue lateral positions at other teams signals the kind of despair or tenuous nature of the Carolina Panthers. Your thoughts on the recent coaching acquisitions? We'll start with Steve Wilkes and go from there.
So I love the Steve Wilkes hire. It's my favorite hire out of all the hires that the Panthers have made. I mean, you know, I don't think any of us ever had a problem with Steve Wilkes. The only criticism that I remember us having in his final year as our defensive coordinator is that he was very dependent upon the blitz to generate pressure. And, you know, but again, he's not our defensive coordinator. He's going to be our defensive backs coach and defensive passing game coordinator. And I think one of the things that benefits us is that Steve Wilkes prefers that man coverage. And that's what the Panthers are moving to with J.C. Horn and C.J. Henderson, potentially bringing back Stephon Gilmore. We have press man corners. We want to man you up. We want to play aggressive. And I think Steve Wilkes is an embodiment of that mindset. I love the fact that he's back. He has history with the Panthers, born here in Charlotte. This is by far my favorite hire of the Panthers to date thus far.
Yeah, and I like adding experience, CK.
Yeah, no, I agree with the experience part of it. I think you need to see, you know, that I think we all needed to see that, you know, for us to be anywhere close to comfortable with where our coaching staff is heading with where we're at right now. My biggest thing is I don't know that, you know, I think the argument of what does this really mean as far as like these coaches leaving the team, and is there really anything to be said about that? And I don't know that there is. I don't know that there's anything that we can take from that, because the reality is I don't know that they're leaving, more so that maybe they're being told like we're going to be moving on and we're just not going to fire you. We're going to let it play out the way that it needs to play out. So if you guys want to find another position, go ahead and do it. Because you get to keep in mind, when Ben McAdoo comes in here as a new coach, he's going to want his guys. Like
that's what it sure seems like, right? He's adding his guys, and McBride or Gilbride seems like one of his guys.
Yeah, I mean, it just, and now obviously you can talk about Steve Wilkes. I think there was a concerted effort, and I don't know that it's just on Matt Rule. I think there could be some pressure that was put on in place by the guy himself, David Tepper. There's no way of knowing, but you got to think that when you see the criticisms of this coaching staff up to this point, you got to think that has something to do with it.
Yeah. So kind of that is the latest news with the Carolina Panthers. They're rounding out their staff and Matt Rule's effort to kind of live to see another season, and all those kind of things are circling back to the question the quarterback now, and this offensive line. And I think without the quarterback, it's going to be hard for him to find a way to keep his job. And it doesn't seem like, and maybe this is where I agree with. This is why I won't take the bet with Cody about Sam Darnold, is putting Sam Darnold out there as a pathway to getting fired. It already almost ended there as it was. You can't do that again unless you just say, hey, we're going to bring in a rookie and ease him in at the right moment. I could see that potentially being a way that Sam Darnold's on the team. And I think Sam Darnold would make a great backup quarterback in the NFL. The problem is $18 million is not a backup salary.
Right.
That's the real problem. So let's go to the next call.
Real quick, I'm all tired of these fucking depressing ass, pussy ass takes. I don't want to go into the season, belly up. I want to go in fighting. I at least want to have fun. Even if we lose a bunch of games, I want to have fun. Get a quarterback. Nothing else matters. You need a quarterback. The offensive line isn't that bad. We can do it. Get a quarterback. No more bullshit takes. Let's have some fun.
All right. Cody, you're on mute. You've been on mute the whole time.
I love it, man. I love it. And how can anyone blame fans for feeling that way? You know what I mean? Like that, looking at what we've had to go through. I mean, not even just recently, man. In the years that Cam Newton started to get hurt, I mean, it feels like we've been dealing with these quarterback issues for half a decade now. And it does feel that way because we have been dealing with them for half a decade now. So, yeah, man, that's why I don't blame people.
And that's why you're with the
like,
3 picks.
Get the quarterback. Go get the
That's why your 3 picks is that, it would be expensive, but you know what? It's way better than not going to eat.
I would be, imagine, and look, let's just be real. Imagine how much more excited we would be for the start of the 2022 season if you knew that Deshaun Watson, the player, was going to be your quarterback. I'm sorry. If you don't have some
Christian
kind of
McCaffrey was coming back.
And DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. It's like, dude.
Oh, I know. You would be right. And all you got to do is add a little bit in free agency to the line. And then you start to say, we don't need the defense to be a top 5 defense. We need them to try to figure out how to be a top 15 defense.
Right. The Bengals weren't top 10, were they?
Oh, no. But I tell you this, though. No, they weren't. And that's why everything has to be good on your team. You can't just have one good thing. Like, everything has to be good. You get there. They were close. But if their defense makes a stop in this game, if they stop Cooper Kupp on that drive twice, and we all just basically, it's like the poor Eli Apple going to get roasted on the internet. It's got to be like the least liked person in the NFL. Poor guy. I almost feel bad for him at this point.
He did it to himself.
Yeah, I have no remorse for that loser, dude.
But he knew he wasn't gonna. He was gonna get burnt anyway. You know what I'm saying? You're right. Their defense wasn't that awesome as it was. But yeah, you would be more successful with a defense that was kind of good and an offense that could keep you in any game. That would be exciting. You're right. I mean, and I think that's the kind of part about the argument here, and why I also, Cody, don't like. And maybe I'm kind of backing off on Pickett. I'm getting a little scared of Pickett as I'm starting to look at him more.
We're
as
gonna
not
do
being
some more film. We're gonna have to
not
do some more film rooms
phenomenal.
on
I think he
both.
looks good, but I just don't see phenomenal. You know what I mean? Like, whoa, kind of wow factor.
Right.
The thing though is that I always wondered this is that when people say, "Oh, I'd take Pickett at 15, just not at 6." Or I'll take Malik Willis in the second, just not in the first. Well, you know what? If he's going to be good and he turns out to be good, then he's worth it wherever he's at. And so the one thing that's kind of where the people I want Deshaun Watson, but I don't want to pay that much for him. Well, if you want to play, you got to pay. You know what I'm saying? You want a good dinner, you got to pay for them. I mean, is that like that's the price? So if that's the thing is that I just don't like this. Like, oh well, it's almost like too much of a money ball approach.
You're playing it too safe. You're going on the assumption that you have to build the team a certain way. You have to build up all the O-line first. You have to make sure we have an all-star defense. Then you can trade up and draft a quarterback,
just
assuming that quarterback's going to be there.
It's ballers.
Yep.
All right,
Deshaun,
last call.
I'm telling you, David Tepper knows this too.
From Elizabeth City,
not last call. They keep calling.
I just wanted to call in one more time tonight, and this is off topic a little bit, but I want to applaud you guys, and I believe a lot of the listeners and subscribers will do the same thing for this C3 podcast. It's been a godsend. We know that when we're doing well or
Chuck.
winning, and I can only imagine following you guys, and I wasn't when we had our Super Bowl run, but how much I look forward to Tuesday night and even watching when I get an opportunity on Fridays when you do your Friday free-for-all, or coming on here on Sundays after a game to bitch about the game or talk about the win. But you guys really all need to be commended, from CK and Bad Daddy.
Thank you, Chuck.
All you guys, Cody, every single one of you guys, Tony, you put the work in and you're here every week, and your fandom can never be questioned. And it's just nice and refreshing. I think we've just this franchise right now, we're at a low. And it's kind of tough, when you're used to eating steak and potatoes and doing well when Cam was here. And right now I feel like we're being fed fried bologna sandwiches every day. And it's tough to stomach. But you're here every day, every week, putting out content, looking for a silver lining. And I just think you guys really need to be commended and take a bow, because you're really giving the listeners, the diehards, something to hang on to during rough times. And I just want to let you guys know I appreciate you guys, and if I ever see you out in public, I'll buy you guys a beer.
My man.
Hey,
Thank
Chuck.
you. We love you, Chuck, man. You've been a great addition to the podcast. You've been a great member of the community. And I really, first, I just want to thank you for that call, because people in life can always benefit for some affirmation, right? Like it really helps people. Like I like to compliment people, just give somebody a compliment, even when it's, I won't say unnecessary, but like, just like, hey man, your sweater looks nice today, to a lady at work or something like that. Or it just, you never know, particularly like what's going on in our own lives, that sometimes that causes like not everything's roses for all of us. I've actually had a very difficult week, and it's nice to get a little affirmation, and appreciate, and not appreciation, but like recognition. Like we could all use that, and and we recognize you guys as well. And I was thinking this was cool, Cody. I went out this Saturday to this like bar at our down the street. Like we have this triangle of bars we always go to, and this is the late night one. This is like the bar. This is the one where you go to get rowdy.
Trash.
Yeah. And this guy, I walk in and this guy goes, "Hey, you got a Panthers podcast, don't you?" I was like, "Yeah." I got a picture with him. His name was Worthington, Washington. It was so late, and it was already, it was late. But I got a picture with him. He didn't want his face being publicized. So I got a picture with him, but his hands up over his face. But I was like, man, that's kind of neat, and I go on the local radio here, so that, maybe I got a little in, but that was nice. We could all use, and look, we don't do this to be congratulated, but it is nice when you are. And man, we have been, and he's right. Like, we have been pounding these streets for a hot minute.
We've been pounding the streets, but it's also important for us, I feel, to say, like, to all of those people who love this podcast and love what we do, you make the Carolina Panthers just as bearable for us as we do the Panthers season.
Tough
for you guys this past few years. Like, imagine we're in the middle of the season and we're losing like we always do, where we just crash back down to earth like the dumpster fire football team that we've been. It feels like every week, and I know that Tony and CK feel a little bit of this too. At certain points, you feel like you're saying the same things over and over and over, and it's like, dude, what more do I even have to say about this topic? Like, there is nothing else to say. But the fact that we're able to come every Tuesday night and now Fridays as well, and be able to have that community and hang out with one another. Like, we might not all be in the same room together, but man, you guys are my brothers and sisters, man. I love each and every one of you. This has been an incredible experience from the moment that I've gotten on here. Tony, I'm grateful to you forever for letting me on this podcast. I have so much fun doing it. And no matter what happens with the Carolina Panthers, like, we do this. We're not going anywhere, man. We love the community that we've built up. We love the football team, and we're going to keep on doing it for everyone.
And now we have to. It's like one of those things, like once you wear a tie to work every day, like you can't. Now the pandemic gave me an out on the tie at work. So when I started teaching, I was very young. First of all, I was 28 years old when I started teaching, and at the collegiate level, and I looked young. I was like, looked young. I mean, I can't grow facial hair. You know what I mean? I'm like I had a baby. I'm just getting to the point where people are like, you don't look young anymore, Tony. But I had to kind of separate myself a little bit to at least pad a little, I won't say authority, but just like to give myself to the students for them to take me serious. So I made sure, you dress the part. My old boss says you dress for the job you want, not the job you have. And so I wore this shirt and tie every day. And my friend at work goes, God, you don't ever wear a shirt and tie, man. He said, because once you start wearing the shirt and tie, the day you don't wear the shirt and tie. And this is true. Like, the only time I would go in when I was starting to get fat and I couldn't button this thing as much anymore. So I would go sport coat, no tie, trying to be like cool teacher look. And they would be like, what's up? Is it casual Wednesday or what? So now that we do this every Tuesday, like, we can't miss it. Like, I was thinking about this. I was tired. I was like, God, there ain't nothing to talk about. But I was like, can't do it. And then the last point I want to make on this is, we know who our audience is, and that's why we do the long form podcast. I know it sucks. I know we say that, like, we got to do this show shorter. We got to do this. But people that listen to this podcast don't want the superficial take.
Right.
They know more about this football team than the 5 minutes they're going to get on from a national pundit. They want us to talk about Kevin Gilbride. That's right. Or else we are just talking about the same shit over. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you too on this with me.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Cody.
No. Go ahead, okay.
I was just gonna say, I mean, obviously, the thing, to Tony's point. We've got this community is growing and growing and growing and growing, and it, just to put it into perspective, right? How many other podcasts that are team specific after a horrible year like this, a week after the Super Bowl with no news whatsoever, have 100 people tuning in to watch us talk about the Carolina Panthers, right? And yeah, a lot of that's going to be interesting to see what the take is on how the Super Bowl went, all that stuff. But I mean, like, you know, if we didn't do this, we'd be letting a lot of you guys down too, right? And the reality is, I know what it's like to be on the other side of this, listening to because I didn't watch the show live, but I did listen to it in my car while I was driving to work the next day, whatever that may have been, right? I did all of that. And I know exactly what's going through like when you're listening to this long form, this long form, like Tony said, you're sitting there arguing along with us, like you're in this podcast with us. And I love that thought is that there are so many people listening, even after the live show is over, that are just so involved in what we're talking about. They're arguing with themselves in a car. If somebody pulled up beside them, they would think they were crazy.
Like, why are you screaming about Deshaun Watson?
Yeah. Like, CK has got the stupidest take, dude. Why are you like? I know that's what's going on, right? But I mean, I appreciate the heck out of anybody, and you know, like I said, it's something that I think we all take pride in knowing that we're here to provide you guys some content to try to absorb with regard to the Carolina Panthers.
And
to add on to this, Tony, like think about the amount of hours, like people that drive trucks for a living, they're just listening to us. Right. They have a bunch of time to kill. And to your point, like this long form podcast is a big conversation, and you might not live in a community where you have access to people. So your time to kind of conversate and talk and bullshit and hang out with the boys ends up being hanging out with us whenever you get the opportunity to do so. So, it's
two further points on that. One is when sometimes I think, God, we're just talking about, it feels like old news. Like, all right, the Steve Wilkes stuff.
Right.
That feels old to me because we're so immersed in this show all the time. Right. And the Twitter, I have 6,000 Twitter followers and all of them are Panther fans. Right. Like that's the cool. My Twitter feed is dope. Like it's like the happiest thing for me and the worst. But it's like it's like all one common group. So it's really neat. But at the same time, I have to try to remind myself, because I've talked about this 7 times since Friday, that the people who are listening haven't talked about it or heard about it 7 times. So I got to try to remember that and remind myself. And then the last point to Chuck's call, this was the hardest season for me. Out of the 9, we've done 9 seasons. Now 9, it's like 8.5 technically, because we started I didn't do a full preseason of that 2013 year. We started in like week 4, right? Because the whole plan was to wait and get the podcast ready and do it in 2014. That was the plan. Like Joey and I was like, all right, we're going to get it right. I'm going to name it. I'm going to do all this and build it and try to do it. And then we're going to roll it out at a certain time. And then I was like, man, we got to just record, dude. We're 12 games. You know what I mean? Like we were on a good, we went 12-4 that season. I was like, I can't miss this. So I just started recording. I kind of slapped it all together, was learning on the fly. That's why the name has kind of evolved over time. I mean, just a lot of things I would have done differently probably. But out of the 8.5 seasons going, like or 9, going into our 10th year, this past year was the hardest. The hardest. And I don't know entirely why that is. I think it's because the uncertainty was hitting me from so many different angles. So some years you just be like, oh, Cam's hurt, or oh, we have a shitty left tackle, or oh, our defense it's like one major thing that you felt like could be overcome shortly.
Right.
This, I don't know really. Like it's so much. It's like a quicksand of shit right now. So I don't know. But it is a new year. It's a new leaf. And we're going to find a way to get excited and get some hope. And boy, I tell you, man, bringing in the Deshaun Watson would be making it a lot easier.
And that's like another thing too. Like think about our podcast, just how good it would be for us. Just, people are going to come in and be like, oh, yeah, I'm so happy. Or, oh, we fucked this up so bad. Or, oh, Deshaun Watson's a, serial molester or whatever the fuck. It's like.
Yeah. It'll be wild. I was trying to think of some other seasons. There's been a couple where we've had 8-game losing streaks. I remember and we've done that. We did that. This year was either 8 or 10. Like at the end, it was week 10. We won in week 10 against the Cardinals. That was the last time. So we lost 8 straight or something like that. There's been another season like that, and those 8 straight losses. Let's just say we coined the therapy thing in 2014. I think it was 2014 is when we coined therapy. That was the 7, 8, and 1 year, or 16 was like that too. But this one still has been very difficult for me. But I tell you this, the last point to Chuck's call. Losing 8 straight sucks. But man, winning 8 straight is fucking awesome on this podcast. When we went 15, oh man, you couldn't people were talking, oh, we're the worst undefeated team in the history of the world. Fuck y'all, man. We were, God, everything was just awesome that year. It was so easy. It was so easy. And then, man, just that ending was really disheartening.
Imagine if we had a similar season now with the podcast where it is now and with the viewers
it would
that
be
we have now.
Nuts. It would be nutso. There would be, and maybe actually the only thing sometimes is weird is sometimes we get more views when we suck. Have you noticed that?
We really had no choice.
Well, average is not very interesting.
No.
Really good is very interesting, and really bad is very interesting in a certain way. But sometimes when everything is going right, people don't need to talk about it. You're just like, well, I'll see you Sunday, folks. This is awesome. Have a great week.
I think it's kind of the same thing both ways. If you're a fan of a team, you want to celebrate with other fans of the team.
Right.
Likewise, when your team is dog shit and doing everything wrong, you want a group of people that you can vent with. And I think that's why this podcast has been such a blessing to so many Panther fans, because it's like, dude, for as much trauma as we've been through with Matt Rule and Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Darnold, I think the reason why your morale has been so low, Tony, is because it's like you're watching one of your best friends in the world in a relationship with someone that is a piece of shit and it's toxic and it's bad for their health, but you just kind of have to let them go through the motions on their own, and
you got to be their friend. You got to be there for them.
We have to be fans, man. We have to be fans, even though our football team is in an abusive, toxic relationship with Matt Rule.
Yeah, and let's just say we have been blessed with some success as Carolina fans.
Right.
2 Super Bowl appearances, several playoff victories.
In a short history.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think this is that the Bills just got their first playoff victory since 1999. The Bengals since 1990.
We've had, just think about how many playoff wins we've had as an organization, and just understand the Bengals haven't had a single one since we've been in existence as up until this year. Just think about that.
We've had 2 Super Bowl appearances, and they haven't even had a playoff win.
The reality is, when you look at teams like the Kansas City Chiefs and the New England Patriots, it kind of numbs you to the fact, it makes you feel like your team is so bad and that it's just this trash pit, right? Because those are outliers. Those don't happen on a regular occurrence. The New England Patriots type of a team, when they had Tom Brady, doesn't happen on a regular occurrence. So we've begun to establish in our minds that this should be where we're at as an organization, and it's really tough to do that in a pro league on any level. So I mean,
we've been
I agree.
blessed and cursed all at the same time. Last call of the night, short one.
Hey, this is Kevin from Charleston. Listen, I'm not going to pussyfoot around it. We talk about, quarterback, we need to draft the quarterback. We need to draft the offense line. You know what we really need? We need to get a motherfucking long snapper, motherfuckers. When's the last time we had a reliable long snapper? That's what we need in this fucking team. That's what will get us to a fucking Super Bowl. Peace.
Well, I would say the last time we had a reliable long snapper was last year, the year before, and the
And
13
like 20 years
or
before you.
15 seasons before that. And I guess that does bring up the kind of the sour grapes. And maybe this is salt in the wound for draft heads. And this is why I'm so tired of the Trey Smith stuff and this, because you're pointing to one guy in the 7th or 6th that turned out to be a starter. Why other teams missed on him, that's another question. But the Panthers, and I want us to do this on our next debate my take, Cody, was the 2021 draft a bust for the Carolina Panthers? You got a first-round pick. Just think of it like this: is first-round pick that ended up being hurt,
Right.
second-round pick that didn't play, a third-round pick that was underwhelming in playing time. The coaching staff didn't love him. Like a fourth round, is Tommy Tremble the only good draft pick at this point? And then on top of that is that you drafted a long snapper for this bit. And then the Panthers made it a big deal too, like the call. And the guy's like, I'm going to crawl there if I got to. And they're like, well, get on your hands and knees and blow me for a position on the team. And I guess he didn't do that because he didn't make the team. And
well, he went on IR.
Yeah. But then you go and sign JJ Jansen again.
Yeah, that's what I'm confused about.
Just it's just so weird. And,
maybe they plan on putting him as a center.
Maybe. I don't know. But good God. So, all right, that is the C3 Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. We do have one last little segment that we do, and it's the longest running segment on the C3 Panthers podcast. It's our Ice Up picks, where our homage to Steve Smith to tell someone to ice up, toughen up, to get it together. Everyone is fair game. From 12-year-olds in Oklahoma to politics to economics to fun stuff, funny stuff or whatever. I got a couple for you guys tonight, but I know, CK, I want you to go first since you were talking, let's keep that conversation as close as we can to that. When you look at teams like the Patriots, how that can give you a false perception of maybe how easy it is to have success.
So what we'll do, Cody, since you'll have the ability to share it if you want to pull it up from their DMs and Twitter, that article.
Sure.
There was a reporter that's a fan of the New England Patriots. He goes by the name of Michael DeVito. And he's got this on a website called chowderandchampions.com. And this is the beginning of it. And I for whatever reason, I got a notification on my phone of this article. And it says, Mac Jones' work ethic in question. Patriots QB acting like a prima donna. I click on it because I'm expecting, I'm adding more fuel to the fire about my expectations of Mac Jones. Because I think we can all say as Panthers fans, we don't like the guy. Not because he beat us, but because of what he did to Brian Burns. And it was a clear, dirty play. And people can debate that all they want. It was clear, and I think most people would probably agree with that. Anyway, so no, I don't like Mac Jones. But the article's premise is that Mac Jones is, when he should be hard at work this offseason, he's frolicking around the Super Bowl like a prima donna. Meaning that he's going around the Super Bowl like what most players do. Let's be real about it. And he just got his team to the Super Bowl, or to the playoffs, I should say, right? He did all the things you would not expect a rookie quarterback to do, especially coming off of abysmal, a team that had an abysmal season the year before, right? We got to give Mac Jones some credit because he was clearly the best quarterback, at least last year, from the draft class in which he came in. But the thought is like, as I mentioned, the Patriots have dealt with success for so long. And the first sign that they have of a quarterback not doing what they expect a Tom Brady type quarterback to be doing, they throw a hissy fit during Super Bowl week saying that he should be in training. He should be trying to find a way to lose that weight that he has on. all of these things. Horrible take with no substance whatsoever. So I mean, to the really, I think as a whole, the Patriots fans who are so fucking spoiled with a quarterback like Tom Brady for the past 20 years that they look at Mac Jones as his time that is considered a vacation, that he is out at Super Bowl week like majority of players were, and out there having himself some sort of a good time doing interviews. To that Michael DeVito and any Patriots fan out there that agrees with that take, ice up, son.
Yeah, it's literally when everyone in the NFL is frolicking around like prima donnas, man. They're they're NFL players. That's crazy, man. Tony, do you want to go first? You want me to go?
I'll go ahead and go. I got some fun ones.
Yeah, mine's just crazy and fun at the same time.
I got 3 different ones. One is this, as I saw a story now. This happened in 2017, but like I guess they just kind of finalized all the things. 2 officers with the LA Police Department were fired for ignoring a robbery in progress to play Pokemon Go. It says the men, Louis Lozano and Eric Mitchell, lost their appeal against the multiple counts of misconduct, which had been based on a recording of them in the car. The digital in-car video system captured them willfully abdicating their duty to assist a commanding officer's response to a robbery in progress and playing a Pokemon mobile game while on duty. Instead of responding to the call, they were only feet away, it says, from Macy's. They started to back up down the alley away from the robbery to get there.
Wow.
Little go got whatever those things are. So to those guys, I say ice up. The next one I got, this one's funny to me, this one is like, it probably shouldn't even be that funny. This guy, Steve McGuire in New England, they had an abnormally warm day last week or so, where they had like a 67-degree day in February. So they took advantage of it, went around, like riding around with the windows down. And so they get back home and he leaves the sunroof open on his minivan. And he goes out there on Valentine's Day to his wife's car, and there's 9 inches of snow inside. So be sure to close your sunroof after a sunny day, because you never know when you're going to get 9 inches of snow.
And literally ice up.
Ice up. Exactly. My last ice up pick goes to, I would say that this is abnormal for our nation, but Bette Midler and West Virginia have a feud going. And this is not new, but I just ran across this story. Bette Midler, who I believe is on like The View or one of those morning talk shows, where we could talk about people talking about things that they don't know a lot about. But so she was upset with Joe Manchin when he was kind of impeding the Build Back Better Act. So this West Virginia senator is a Democrat that was voting against this Democratic bill. And so she tweeted out she tweeted, "What Joe Manchin, who represents a population smaller than Brooklyn, has done to the rest of America who wants to move forward, not backward, like his state, is horrible. He sold us out. He wants us to be just like his state, West Virginia, poor, illiterate, and strung out." She went on to then say, so this feud with her and West Virginia has been going on for a couple of months now. But she went out and tweeted something to the effect of that her dog would have been. So the governor for West Virginia did a State of the Union speech or some sort of state of something speech. And maybe it was after Biden's speech. You know how the opposite team does theirs. And she tweeted out that her dog would be more entertaining. So this week, the West Virginia governor, or last week, brought his dog into the state legislature and held up its backside and told Bette Midler to kiss her hiney. So we've got politics using dog poop props, dog ass props, going after old ass talk show ladies. I would like to say that this is abnormal, but this is like completely par for course when it comes to politics. So,
If anything, it's kind of
ice up.
tame.
Yeah.
You know, especially
Ice up.
considering who the president was the past 4 years.
Yeah.
By the way, that Bette Midler thing, like, I'm no Republican, but that right there is why Democrats are going to lose the midterms and they're going to lose the presidency again because of these rich elite liberal people looking down their nose. That's just like when Hillary was calling Trump's supporters a gang of deplorables and shit like that. It's like people don't respond to that kind of shit from rich politicians.
No, it's out of touch. It's out of touch.
Yeah,
and,
it's like it's like as you speak behind your gated community walls, you know, that shields you from the middle class Americans that you look down upon. It's like shut
and
up.
they do have
a
big point about and I'm not going to say this is look, I work for government, you know, I mean, taxpayers pay my check. So I think there's a positive role that government can play in our lives, but throwing money around isn't always just a solution to problems. I mean, you look at the CARES Act with the pandemic, like, I mean, there is a lot of like weird money spent. Like you can only spend it on certain stuff, but it's like, gosh, I mean, it's like, it's one thing to make sure that we have a flow of credit to make sure that people like institutions don't seize up and do some different things. But I don't know if just spending money to spend money is wise in its own right. And like the idea too, especially for institutions, I don't want to talk too much about my personal job because I don't want to get in trouble. But like, especially when you make one-time acquisitions, right? Like you get this one influx of money to buy stuff, but then you can't support that stuff in the long term. Like, is that just a wasted venture at that moment? I don't know. But anyway,
yeah. One day, Tony, one day, me and you need to do some form of like a political, even if it's just like a once a year type of
I'd
deal.
love to. That's fun.
Yeah.
You know, me
I'm
and my
down.
buddy are starting a new podcast. I haven't told anybody about this. This is the first time I've told anybody about it. But since we're both historians, I mean, we're professionally trained historians, and we're doing a book club podcast. So we're going to read, you know, we've already recorded one episode. We're going to drop like a season though. We're not going to drop it like a weekly thing.
Yeah.
Because it's too hard to keep up with that. And, you know, you get busy at work. So we're going to record like 6 episodes before we even drop it. But we're already 3 books deep. First book is on a topic I don't like at all, which is the Civil War, military history, Confederacy. But we did it. We're picking all of our books based on topics that are relevant today. So we picked it because of the monuments, memorial status is alive.
Confederate
the next
flag.
book we're doing, is the next book is really cool. It's called American Contagions. It's about like how we've historically dealt with pandemics. And then the third book we're working on now is a very complicated one. It's on immigration from the 1920s and how that set the tone for what illegal aliens are today. So I'll keep you guys informed about that a little bit as we go forward. But yeah, I'm always interested in talking about the world. All right, Cody,
for sure.
ice these fools up and let's get out of here.
Yeah, man. So I have 3, but they're all quick, I promise. Number one, I'm icing up StreamYard. Give me a dark mode, man. My eyes always hurt so badly at the end of this podcast because I have the StreamYard up. Whenever you see me share stuff, like from Twitter or my YouTube, I always have everything in dark mode. Like my eyes just don't want to stare at a big bright.
You know, we can make suggestions.
screen.
I'm going to make a suggestion to the creator group about that for you. But
yeah, definitely do, man. Because my eyes hate looking at StreamYard, and I use it so much.
Right.
You know, so it's like, come on, StreamYard, give us a dark mode. Number 2, this one, Tony, I think you might find hilarious, and you may have even heard about this. This is coming from Arizona. A priest in Arizona resigned after he incorrectly performed baptisms for decades, possibly derailing the rite for thousands of people. The Catholic Diocese of Phoenix on its website confirmed Andrea Sharongo used the words, "We baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit," instead of the correct phrase, "I baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit," in English and in Spanish. The diocese explained that the single incorrect word matters for worshipers because it's not the community that baptizes a person and incorporates them into the Church of Christ. Rather, it's Christ and Christ alone who presides over all sacraments. Therefore, it is Christ who baptizes, the diocese says. If you were baptized using the wrong words, that means your baptism is invalid and you were not baptized. And I'm like, dude, whoa, imagine you live your whole life as a good Catholic person, and then you find out, like, oh, you were baptized wrong. Like, dude, that's I don't even know what to think of this.
I
Man.
gotta
Like,
believe the church can do something like a special intervention, like a grace thing, or there's got to be something that this can be like, is that this is important, but we can't just nullify. Oh man.
So look, it even goes on to say, and shrugging off the invalid baptisms isn't an option for many worshipers because it affects sacred practices for Catholics, such as confirmation, communion, and more. The diocese
you can't have those unless you do. You got to do them in the order.
And the diocese says the confusion could also affect marriages. So, man, to the guy who's literally been messing this up for decades.
Think about that. It's just the difference between an I and a we, though.
Yeah, dude, literally an extra letter. Dude, that's
Protestants
crazy.
won't get this.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. But yeah, no, I was gonna say, like, it's so weird that the one word changes such an incredible amount of that, because like even with my work, they make a big deal, like, because when we have to talk to somebody, it's recorded and monitored line, I have to say call may be monitored or recorded. If I say call may be recorded or monitored, I'm in trouble, and it makes no sense whatsoever. There is no reason behind it, so it is weird that that's such a big deal. But
lawyers, yeah, and that's one cool thing and not cool thing about the Catholic Church. They're very technical. Is like they believe what they believe. All right, what's this one?
So our final one is, if you're the guy riding this moped, how the fuck do you not know this is coming?
Hey, yo.
Like, literally, you're driving on the tracks, and that's a big-ass train right there. You're going to tell me that it took you up to that point to realize that there's a big-ass train coming for you?
He's probably just like listening to the C3 Panthers podcast. He was so
he's a C3 fan.
He was so enamored by our conversation.
He was listening to Tony Dunn wax poetically about Gardner Minshew. So to that guy,
that made me jump. That made me pee my pants.
Dude, to that guy who damn near got himself killed. Come on, man. How did you not know that's coming? Ice up, son.
Ice up.
Brock Maurice. This is Maurice. Remember me? Is he talking about the guy that I met in the? I don't know. All right. Look, that's the C3 Panthers podcast. Best fans, best podcast, best everything, bestest. Nah, man, we have a good time. Thanks, Chuck, for that words of encouragement. I kind of needed that tonight. I was kind of trying to find some motivation to come on here and really get excited. And I was like, man, we can't bail on the first episode of the season after 10. This is 10, so we ain't bailing. We'll keep it together. We lift up each other, man. Lock arms, walk forward together. You can contact me on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. You can email me at carolinacatchronicles@gmail.com. Like Nick said, leave us a rating wherever you listen at. If it's on YouTube, smash the thumbs up button, subscribe. If you're on Facebook, subscribe, smash the thumbs up. If you're on iTunes, Spotify, podcast apps of all nature, give us a rating, or at least consider it. That's one way that you can help us grow without even donating $1. Now your time is worth something, so we appreciate it. We appreciate your support. We appreciate all those people listening I appreciate the two guys on this podcast with me. Thanks, fellas. Cody, go ahead.
Always,
pass the
man.
mic around.
Yeah, man. You can find me on Twitter at CodyLac, CodyLac. This Thursday, we're going to have a brand new mock draft on drafttech.com. So be on the lookout for that. And then at some point this week, Tony and I we're going to be doing a debate my take, but we're also going to probably be uploading a video film room featuring none other than Malik Willis. That will
now
be
I'm
really
excited. Now I'm excited.
That will be really fun. That's going to be a cool one. And then, as always, Friday free for all every Friday at 7 p.m. You, whoever you are listening, however you're intaking the show, either listening on audio, watching on YouTube, you can be a part of the show. I will post the link to the StreamYard every Friday at 7 p.m. You can come. We have an incredible time. We have a dedicated group of guys that come on every Friday and love to, add to the discussion. It's been an incredible time. And I want to meet all of you, man. This is the Friday Free for All has been part of my way and our way, really, of putting names to faces, man. Like, I've gotten to meet so many of you guys that I genuinely consider to be good friends now. So come be a part of it, man. Friday Free for All every Friday at 7 p.m. And
CK, did you I just learned, maybe I'm just completely out of it, about Amazon Gaming, Prime Gaming. Like, you can get games like part of your Prime membership, and they seem like they're pretty cool games too.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with it, but I know a lot of those are starting to do subscription-based game options and stuff. Like,
well, you get some with your Prime membership, homie. You already got some. You should check them out. All right, CK, how can they find you?
You can find me on the social medias at CoDizzleAllen, Twitter, Instagram. I have the TikTok. You can follow me over there as well. If you're interested in watching some streaming, I've been playing mainly Escape from Tarkov. If anybody here plays Escape from Tarkov and would like some people to play with at night, feel free to reach out. But you can find me on Facebook Gaming at CoDizzleAllen as well. But other than that, you're going to find me here every Tuesday night hanging out with you guys.
Thanks so much, guys, for your support. Cody, take us out of here, bro.
Yeah, we never even talked about the halftime show.
We'll talk about that next week. There's nothing to be upset about, folks. Rap is mainstream. I don't even know how people even upset.
Yeah, that's crazy shit in the world. But hey, add to that conversation yourself this Friday on the Free for All. But until then, we will see all of you fine people later. Until then, keep pounding.
Keep pounding.